Okay, I'm going to make an effort to speak into the microphone. Can you hear me now? Is this good? Thank you for the thumbs up. I'm calling the meeting to order, and thank you all for coming. First of all, thank the school district for allowing us to have this space. I think that we may have been overcrowded in the space we usually operate in. Secondly, I'd like to thank Diane for the wonderful organization that she's put into this from the building department. Diane, you've done an excellent job. So I will formally call the meeting to order. All members are present and accounted for, including all of our consultants. Correspondence, which I'll hand over to Fran, includes a piece of correspondence that I'm going to ask our attorney to direct attention to in terms of how to address the board and who to address when you're corresponding with the board. That will come from my attorney, Dominic.
Thank you. There was a correspondence regarding the Biagini Woods project, which we'll get to when we get to that item on the agenda. But in the meantime, I just want to mention a few points of order. First, since there's so many of you in attendance, please silence your cell phones so that we can not have any distractions as far as that's concerned. And then second, tonight's meeting is being live streamed. So online comments are not part of the record for tonight's public hearings. This is not a hybrid meeting, so anyone who's watching this at home is free to watch it at home. They are free to observe it. But if you're watching it at home and only want to watch, that's fine. But if you want to provide public comments to the board, public comments are being accepted here, or they're being accepted in writing after the close of the public hearing on Biagini Woods.
Thank you, Dominic. Tonight, normally I ask for the approval of the previous month's minutes, and Fran unfortunately was ill last month, and we don't have the minutes yet, so we'll forego that, and we will receive the minutes during the coming month. So that's that. We have no resolutions to consider, so we will move on to the public hearing. Sorry. Oh, we have two discussion items. Okay. I'm going to turn it back to my attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So under discussion items, there was previously approved by the town board special permits for the dark room and the farmhouse market for their businesses on Main Street. There was a question at the building department as to whether or not site plan approval would be required for those projects. I just want to make it clear on the record that the planning board had previously waived requirement for site plan approval, and the reason for that is that no exterior modifications were being proposed as part of those facilities. So there's nothing further that needs to be done in connection with those two applications. With that, I believe the next item would be the Cornwall Social project. And I have some comments on this, but if you want me to go right into it, I'd be happy to. Okay, so for Cornwall Social, this is a public hearing on the project. This site was previously approved for mixed use, including pickleball facility, which also included a restaurant use and some retail. Due to the number of public people in attendance, the public will have a limited time to speak. There will be 3 minutes for members of the general public, and if you're an elected official, you will have 5 minutes to present your comments to the board. In the interest of time, if you agree with comments of someone who spoke earlier, please let us know that that's the case and then move on. We want to ensure that everyone has had a full and fair opportunity to be heard. If everyone has had the opportunity to speak, then we will provide, and there's still time left to the meeting, we will provide an opportunity to speak again for those who want to. When it comes time for the public hearing, please state your name and address for the record. Franny, our stenographer, is keeping minutes of this meeting. Please go easy on her by speaking clearly and give her an opportunity to catch up to you if she needs it. To help Franny out, please, no outbursts from the crowd. Shouting, clapping, or yelling out is disruptive, it's counterproductive, and not respectful to others in the process. These types of outbursts are not helpful to the planning board. And if you're clapping or shouting while others are trying to talk, then Franny cannot hear what is being said. If anyone acts out of order, the planning board chair may require that they be removed from the room. So with that said, I'll turn it back to the chair. I believe that the applicant has a presentation to make in connection with this before we're turning it over to public comment.
I will also point out that please don't ask the planning board for a response to any questions. The planning board is considering this is a public hearing. We're here for input from the public, so we will consider it over the next 30 or so days and then reconvene in April for final consideration. So just so you know, the planning board, I've directed the planning board not to offer any responses and unless directed, okay? And with that, I'd ask the principal forward for a brief explanation of the project.
Hi, I'm Liz Dunn, here with my husband, Gabe Ahern. We are the owners of Cornwall Social and Salisbury Mills Holdings. With us is Justin Dates from Collier's Engineers, and we may at some point be joined by our architect. He seems to be delayed, James Hartford, who grew up on Beaver Dam Lake. Thank you for having us. We're excited to tell you about our project. I don't know if we're able to get the presentation up on the projector, sorry. Okay, so this is a rendering that River Architects did of what we hope this project will be. Next slide. And this next page is is kind of an artistic view of what the site plan looks like. Justin will get into all the details of the site plan, but as we see it, this is going to be a very unified site where you have a cafe, a farm stand, the greenhouse where we'll grow local, we'll grow vegetables and herbs and flowers, and then a recreational hall and what we're calling a social hall. In the rec hall, we want to have games and, performance space for local bands. In the social hall, we'll have private event space, we'll have local makers markets, Christmas markets, that kind of thing. And we really want the grounds to be beautifully manicured and have picnic tables and walking paths. We're growing wildflowers. And so this is, what our vision is. I didn't state for the record, we are Cornwall residents. We live at 18 Idlewild Park Drive in Cornwall on Hudson with our two sons. And we love the area. The reason we believe that this project should go forward, and the reason that we're doing this is because this is what we like to enjoy about the Hudson Valley. We find ourselves on weekends driving, 45 minutes an hour to go enjoy a place like this. We think Cornwall deserves to have a place like this. Next slide, please. So the benefits, as I see it, of the project, continued agricultural use of the property. We know the history with the Pennings family and believe that it'll be nice to preserve an agricultural piece of this property. Yep. Okay. Okay, great. You want me to go to the other microphone? Okay. Okay, how is this for everyone? Yeah, okay. Sorry about that. So the benefits that we believe of this project: continued agricultural use of the property, access to locally sourced agricultural products at our farm stand. So the old historic barn that's kind of falling down, we're going to rebuild that and remake that and turn it into a farm stand selling local produce and agricultural goods. High quality farm to table dining at our cafe, which is walking distance from many of your homes, I would imagine. Family-friendly entertainment options at the rec hall, a location for celebrations, weddings, baby showers, birthdays, walking paths around the property, which will be open to residents. And like I said, we're going to make it very beautiful and plant wildflowers to support pollinators, and we think it'll be a really stunning project once done. Beautification of the area, and then a sustainable approach to development. Before I turn it over to Justin from Collier's, I do want to say, I know that there are concerns about the wastewater treatment facility. I saw the page. I saw the post on Facebook today, and we'll go into what we're doing, but the Department of Environmental Conservation has given us the limits, and they're quite stringent what they want us to do with this wastewater facility, so that it is safe. I understand the challenges you've had in the past when there have been overflows of raw sewage. This is not going to be raw sewage in any way, shape, or form, and we are required to have someone daily monitoring the levels, monitoring the function of the facility to make sure that it's in good working order 365 days a year. So I wanted to address that anyhow, but we're really excited about this project. We're looking forward to your comments. We're investing $2 million in this property to make this come to be. And we've also received a grant from the state of New York for about $400,000, which we're really excited about. And so I'll let Justin tell you a little bit more about it.
Good evening, Justin Dates with Collier's Engineering and Design. Right now, the site plan for the proposed project is being brought up on the screen, and I'll just run through the proposal. Yep. Okay. I'm going to run through the current site plan for the project that the planning board has been reviewing. So the project site is about 10.7 acres in size. It is the former Penning's Garden Center. On the bottom of the page up here is Route 94, and then just off to the right is Shore Drive. So all the existing structures on site, the applicant is looking to renovate and reuse. I'll start with, we're calling Building 1, or this down the bottom right-hand corner. That's where the cafe would be, 40-seat cafe. As we move to the left or the west, this is the older barn structure that Liz had mentioned. That would be retail or the farm stand, and then also have storage space within it. There is an existing residence on the far left here, a two-bedroom residence that they would look to renovate as such. Here in the kind of the center of the site is the greenhouse facility. The existing greenhouse there, due to safety concerns, was taken down, but it would be rebuilt in that location at a slightly smaller scale. This building in the back here, Building 4, would be the indoor recreation facility that Liz had mentioned. Shuffleboard, cornhole, things of that nature would be located within that building. And then the last building on the right here, Building 5, that is going to be renovated to the restaurant, which has 60 seats in there. And then we've kind of created this courtyard gathering area in this U of the existing buildings here, which will be landscaped, some of the walkways that were referenced to connect each of the facilities, and as well as on the far right here again is our proposed parking facility. So the layout of the project, it's in the LS or local shopping zoning district in the town of Cornwall. It meets all the zoning requirements, including parking. And our proposed access is right here. There's an existing driveway that will be improving for access to Shore Drive. One of the driveways out front will be maintained to gain access to our overflow parking area and the small residential building. From utility-wise, for water, there is an on-site well that we're currently pursuing a permit with the Department of Health for water service for the project. Sanitary sewers for the project, we originally were pursuing a connection down to the intersection of Shore Drive and Sycamore. That discharge, current sanitary sewer facilities discharged to the New Windsor treatment plant. We did pursue that, but we're not permitted to connect based on the town of New Windsor response to that. So hence, we are proposing a on-site wastewater treatment plant, which is a package system to handle it's about 5,500 gallons per day that these facilities would generate. We have initiated that process with the New York State DEC. They reviewed our proposed discharge location and approved that and provided us with preliminary effluent limits, or how strictly we need to polish that water before we could discharge it to the on-site pond. So we're currently pursuing that with the DEC. Stormwater has been designed in accordance with New York State DEC, and we have provided a stormwater pollution prevention plan. To note from that standpoint, we have reduced the overall impervious surface for the project, or paved areas, things of that nature, by about 50% from the prior use. So we've really cut that back and have provided our stormwater facilities as needed. Now, with this, the applicant is looking to phase the construction. They want to do a phase one, which would entail initial use of building 1, the cafe, 2 with the retail farm stand storage area, and then completion of the rec hall, the greenhouse is in there, and then a bathroom facility in the restaurant in the rear. To get that going, and while we're working through the design and permitting of the wastewater treatment plant, we would look to store and pump out the effluent that would be generated from that portion of the project, which is about a third or so of that. Then
Hello, my name is James Hartford. I'm from River Architects in Cold Spring, but I actually grew up about a mile from Pennings. And so it's kind of fun to come home and do this project together with Liz and Gabe. Our firm specializes in sustainability in architecture. So we don't put furnaces in our buildings. We tend to use energy efficiency so that we're not contributing to global warming. And so our goal for the sustainability of this is to actually take this existing structure and turn it into a certified passive house, so that we are not, again, using energy from fossil fuels. And the goal is to generally work with this structure to upgrade it, insulate it, and make it a very comfortable and enjoyable space. Other buildings, we plan on heating and cooling with ground source heat pumps. Again, no oil, no propane. And so the idea is to reduce the environmental impact through the architecture. It's just an exciting opportunity to be working here. I know that the town of Cornwall has just received the New York Forward grant, and that's a terrific achievement. My firm is consulting with NYSERDA and helping communities in addressing their climate goals. And so I may be actually working with you in the larger picture. But I'm honored to be here and look forward to discussing this further with you.
Hello, everyone. Gabriel Ahern at 18 Idlewild Park Drive in Cornwall and Hudson. Could we move to the next slide? Oh, no. Oh, sorry, down. Oh, sorry, one more. Okay, thank you. This is just a description of what we are planning to do with the greenhouse. As anyone who knows the old Penning site knows, there were multiple greenhouses there. At the time we purchased the property, there was one remaining. And as it turned out, we were not able to keep any of the remaining, we were not able to keep that one remaining greenhouse for reasons of structural integrity and the safety of the glass. We are replacing that with a more modern one that's going to be safer, so it's going to be safe for people to gather in. And that's going to be slightly smaller at 9,200 square feet. We're working with a local agricultural center to find a farmer to grow vegetables, herbs, and flowers. We don't want to just purchase agricultural products from the area. We want to grow some of them on site as well. And then we are also planning to use this building for classes and farm dinners. Next slide, please. Okay, and finally, the rest of the grounds, we're planning to have them, right now, as we know, the site's not really usable for anything. It's not walkable. We want to have picnic tables outside, keep all the grounds, well landscaped, but with space for wildflowers. We want this to be a space for the whole community, for, walking paths and other communal spaces, not just for our customers, but for the whole community. And we want to use, not just use the greenhouse for agricultural use, but the rest of the site as well. Wildflowers, raised beds to supplement what's being grown in the greenhouse. Thank you.
Okay, can you hear me now? Yes. Okay. Thank you very much, and thank you for the presentation. I'll now ask members of the public to come up and speak for 3 minutes, give or take, and I would appreciate common courtesy. As our attorney explained, we're all on the same team here, so please be courteous with your comments. Elizabeth and Paul Doty are first on the list. Are you here?
Here, but I don't think we knew we were talking.
Sorry?
Yeah, it seems the common mistake. It was a speaker sign-up sheet, but a lot of people sign in speaker sign-up sheet. So we'll just go through the names, and
Okay.
whoever wants to speak can speak.
Yes, if I call your name and you don't want to speak, it's perfectly fine. And let me remind everybody that the comments are for the Cornwall Social project and not the second public hearing. So, Elizabeth and Paul, thanks for signing up, but it's okay. Felicia Lecce or Lecce?
Let you know, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Chris Melonis? I feel like it's let's make a deal.
My name is Chris Melonis, live over in 532 Shore Drive, corner of Maple and Shore, Cornwall. Been there about 38 years, seen a lot of changes. I'm not really against this whole thing of beautifying the area. Our problem, and I've been on the water board, I've been on the Lake Association, Local 6 in the city, so I know how the boards work and everything else. My main concern is safety. Basically, for eons, the entrances and exits have been on Route 94. The area going, what you were proposing for the main area is for the secondary where they had deliveries. Why on earth would you even propose to have that as a main egress without using 94? Number one concern. Number two concern is you're dumping the water, wastewater, which you're saying is going to be monitored. What kind of assurance do you give us as Beaver Dam Lake owners of quality of water in our lake that we're not going to have runoff? You cannot control Mother Nature. Are you going to float a $2 million bond for insurance? We just fixed that dam. It took us 3 years to just get it right. Mr. Larry Rossini has been on the board, spearheading this whole thing. He understands what went into it. We have so many nutrients going into it already from the PFOSs, PFOAs, from Stewart Airport, which we're trying to go to litigation on that. Now we have this at the bottom of it. It doesn't not make sense. Third is safety. We have a lot of children on bicycles going in and out of Cumberland Farms. What is going to keep them safe with all this extra traffic going in and out? Probably be a light at the corner, no problem there. Fourthly, how about the safety and concerns? What happens with the area when the restaurant social club closes at 10 o'clock at night? There's not going to be any milling around? Is Cornwall Police going to be going past there? Is New Windsor Police going to be monitoring it? So these are main concerns I'm sure all my fellow residents have right now. And that's basically all I need to say. I'm sure other people will embellish on it, but we're very concerned.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Walter Blass and Christopher Dunn.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Walter Blows. I am the Vice Chair of the Beaver Dam Lake Board, Advisory Board for Beaver Dam Lake. This is Christopher Dunn. He's also on the board. We're a 7-person board that has responsibility for maintaining the quality of the lake, the area, the reserves, as well as the buildings in the area. So I'm speaking on behalf right now. I'm not presenting as a resident. I'm actually presenting as a board at this time. Now, just up front, just out of respect for time for everybody, we did formally submit a 5-page letter to the planning board today, which has a lot more details in it than I'm going to cover here because I could spend an hour just talking on it. And I don't want to take up everybody else's time for that. So I'm just going to cover the highlights if we can, just to get it on record, if that's okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
As I was told, we have to speak into the microphone, if you wouldn't mind.
I need to get down a little bit. Can you hear me better? Like I said, you already have a copy, correct? Okay. Okay, so just a little bit of background first of all to paint a picture for everybody. Beaver Dam Lake is a 164-acre lake located adjacent to the proposed Cornwall Social Club site. Closer, now you're really challenging me. Okay, Beaver Dam Lake is a 164-acre lake located adjacent to the proposed Cornwall Social Club site. The lake is held within a residential neighborhood encompassing the towns of Cornwall, New Windsor, and Blooming Grove. So when we consider this, we're not just the lake itself, we're not just impacting the Cornwall concern, it's New Windsor and Blooming Grove also. The district actually is encompassed by about 800 households. It's in excess of the 800, just to give you a picture of how many homeowners are in the area. The Beaver Dam Lake is part of a county district controlled by Orange County, New York. Specifically, the Department of Public Works in Orange County, they have the primary ownership of the lake itself. We as a board are an interface between the residents and the county, and we work pretty tight hand in hand. Like I said, the resident advisory board for Beaver Dam Lake works diligently with Orange County Department of Public Works to ensure lake health, water quality of Beaver Dam Lake is maintained to the highest standards. We'll add more on that, but basically we spend our job pretty much year round is making sure that the lake quality is maintained where it needs to be. Input, what we did look at, we just didn't shoot from the hips on any of this. There's a lot of reading. I appreciate the organization that you did, Diane, for getting everything up there. But we did have a chance to review you actually have exactly 300 pages of documents containing your 7 documents posted on your website, at the time of Cornwall's website. You had the 2 letters from Color Engineering to the town of Cornwall, 1 letter from Delaware Engineering to Color Engineering, 2 site plan documents, 1 informal document quoting the effluent limits. Just a little feedback on that. What you want to try to do when you post things like that, don't allow people to assume that it's from the Department of Environmental, from the New York State DEC. Actually include a cover letter from the DEC so we know it's a formal submission. Because right now it's just that's a table of data, which is really meaningless without having a formal submittal on it. I did have a chance to review the stormwater pollution prevention plan. And just as a side note, I think some of you noted already, your minutes from the February 6th planning board were not up there. So if any of this was already covered, I apologize, but I couldn't go back and review your minutes from the last meeting. In addition, reviewed the New York State the Speedies permit program, the New York State Protection of Waters program, and the New York State DEC regulations, Chapter 10, Division of Waters. We did, just so you're aware, we did notify Orange County Department of Public Works Commissioner. He's noted of these same concerns we're going to discuss tonight because they have a direct ownership in, basically in harmony with us for maintaining what we got to go through. I also was in touch with New York State DEC, Mike Fratzis from the Bureau of Ecosystem Systems Health for POC, he's our point of contact for Beaver Dam Lake. This is the short version, by the way. And what I'm going to try to do, I'm just going to give you the high level 3 concerns that we have that we'd like you to address, but all the details are contained in the letters that we submitted earlier to you. Concern number 1 is the sewage. I understand that the original plan was going to tie into the town of New Windsor, into the sewage system. I understand that that was denied. I understand that.
There's been a 1-minute warning, sir.
I'm sorry?
1 minute.
Okay, I'm sorry, we have to talk faster. The sewage, the use of the on-site wastewater treatment plant may cause unmonitored releases of sewage influence through the nearby tributary into Beaver Dam Lake, resulting in excessive and unacceptable E. coli bacteria, nutrient overloading, causing health risks to the residents and aquatic life, as well as the significant algae blooms. This is a health and a financial concern to Beaver Dam Lake residents. The runoff, the stormwater pollution prevention plan does not adequately cover or consider the use of fertilizers on the property and runoff into the tributary flowing into Beaver Dam Lake, resulting in potential excess of nutrients flowing to BDL, causing excessive algae blooms. Additional information in that plan actually seems very dated. This is a health and financial concern to Beaver Dam Lake. And the last one is the traffic, as somebody else had expressed. Designing the primary access to the property on Shore Drive will introduce traffic backups impacting the ability for response by emergency personnel, ambulance, police, fire, and lake and ice rescue required by safety on Beaver Dam Lake. The potential traffic backup is also obviously a community concern for the over 800 district residents tying into the exit. Skip the notes. Request.
Thank you. That is your time.
Okay.
These were, just to be clear, these are part of your written comments that you've already submitted, correct?
They are. If you want me to summarize the three requests, I can do that in 30 seconds.
No, I
Okay.
don't need that. What we just want to confirm is that you were reading off of your written comments, which the board and the stenographer could receive, because it's very difficult for her to take down comments when you're rushing through them. So thank you.
I understand.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Peter Opperman? That's okay. Thank you.
That hearing is next.
I'll circle you and add you to that list if you'd like, okay? Bonnie Brennan Song?
I live on the New Windsor side of Beaver Dam Lake. This lake is our lake. I appreciate the effort that these people are undertaking. I loved the farms when they existed previously. But first and foremost and above all, as the gentleman just before me said, we do not need further pollution in our lake. This lake is for boating. This lake is for swimming. This lake is for children to enjoy. And I fear that we will be excluded from the use of the lake by this project if there's further damage and pollutants added to our water. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bonnie. Just for information, what I'll do is I'll ask for the person to come up to speak, and I'll then mention the person on deck so that we don't have to wait forever for the next person to come down. So with this, Christine Little will come up now, and Herb Crosby will be on deck.
No. I thought it was just a sign in that they wanted to know who was here.
Okay, you're Herb?
Yeah.
Okay, Herb. Harry Blackman would be after that.
Good
Thank
evening.
you.
Christine Little. I live on the New Windsor side of Beaver Dam. Very pro-business, but do have a lot of concerns about our lake and our community. 73 parking spaces, I believe. You can't hear me? Okay. Christine Little from the New Windsor side of Beaver Dam Lake. 73 parking spaces is, I believe that was the number that I counted. It doesn't seem adequate, especially if there's going to be large events there. Concerned about an outflow of traffic building up onto shore. Dumpsters. They're going to attract wildlife, insects. Also, there's runoff that is close to one of your retention ponds. More impervious surface that will also run off into the waterways. The light plan looked like there were a tremendous amount of lights. I hope that there's going to be serious attention to downward facing lights and low light pollution. Water. Many of our residents have sediment in their drinking water. Concerned that this is going to overload some of those wells in the water system that's currently in place. The wastewater treatment plant. In the notes that we found online, it said a recommended alternative was identified. I would hope that you would make those identifications public before any approval. I propose a bond for any potential damages, another bond for any decommissioning in the event, and I hope not, that this business does not succeed. Who's going to be taking care of sediment that's left in that treatment plant? In the event that you can't do a bond, insurance with a certificate that would have to be certified and filled out to the town annually. Also, testing. It's wonderful to hear that there would be daily testing of the system, but who exactly is responsible from the owners, and who will they be reporting that data to on the town side? Just to mention some of the items that will be going in, I'll be quick. Fecal coliform, phosphorus, mercury, chlorine, ammonia, suspended solids, settlable solids, pretty wide range on the pH. It's 2 points, that's pretty significant in pH, and 90-degree temperature of the discharge, which will have a huge impact on the waterways. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christine. Harry Blackman?
Yes, my name's Harry Blackman. I live on Lakeview Trail, which is right on the lake. My first concern is, as some of the others have mentioned, the sewage dispersal. It seems to me, well, first off, the 5,500 gallons per day is a guesstimate based on what's going in. It's not necessarily accurate given the amount of people who will be using that facility. That's a guesstimate at best. 5,500 gallons a day mounts up to 2,007,500 gallons a year. The pond that it's going into is considerably smaller than that. The idea that treatment will minimize what happens is fine, but there are mistakes made. And in this day and age, why would we even be considering dispersing wastewater into fresh water, into a freshwater system? This is not a third world country. End of story. You know, the dispersal of pathogens into the water in third world countries is a primary cause of problems in health-wise, and we're allowing that to happen in our town. Kids who swim in that lake can inhale those pathogens, that bacteria. To impinge on their health is simply criminal, okay? That's that one. Let's talk about, we need to have a study in terms of, I mean, I love the facility, it looks great, but you're going to increase the traffic flow tremendously. It seems like it should be coming from 94, not Shore Drive, okay? We just, it seems like just yesterday, but we put in a stoplight at Jackson because of the traffic flow there, and thank God, because there've been car accidents there all the time. What are you going to do to prevent those things happening there? It seems like that's a major issue as well that should be looked at in greater detail. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Thank you for your comments. John Evans? John, with Lawrence Rossini on deck.
Good evening. My name is John Evans. I live at 110 Bridle Path in Salisbury Mills, 2 turns away from the proposed site. There's a lot of people here for both of the issues that are on the agenda this evening, and I'd like to point out that we're really lucky to have people that are making proposals like this, that are taking something that was ugly, that was an eyesore, and making it something beautiful for our community again. We have to have people that are willing to take those efforts, those financial risks, and develop something that we can all use. This isn't going to be some huge obelisk office building in a disused field like we see as we're driving into Monroe. It's going to be something that all of us can use. It's going to be sustainable. It's going to be completely carbon neutral. It's taking something ugly and making it beautiful, as opposed to what we have later on the agenda, which is taking something beautiful and making it ugly. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence. Well, thank you, John. Lawrence Rossini? Sorry? And Mildred Collard is after him. Lawrence?
Hi, Larry Rossini, Hickory Avenue, Beaver Dam Lake. I'm the former chair of the Beaver Dam Lake District Board. I've been a 50-year resident of Beaver Dam Lake and involved with lake water quality for much of that 50 years. My family goes back to the 1930s at the lake, so I know it end to end by heart. I know the watershed. Running a new sewage treatment plant into Beaver Dam Lake is a mistake. I was involved in the Animal Import Center and the Stewart Airport Sewage Treatment Facility, getting them offline and preventing the import center from coming into the lake. I know what I'm talking about when it comes to maintenance on these facilities. These package plants work great when they work. They are notorious for not being maintained. I have data on several other sewage treatment facilities in the area that are monitored by DEC, but they're really not monitored. They're operating under speedies permits from DEC, but what happens is they are self-monitored. When they are operating at parameters outside of their permitted discharges, they're supposed to voluntarily turn themselves in with a violation notice. It's kind of like you doing 45 into 40 and writing yourself a ticket, all right? They're notorious for not being maintained. So it's a mistake to use a package plant in this instance. Phosphorus is a huge problem in Beaver Dam Lake. We have the distinction of having the 5th highest number of harmful algal bloom reports confirmed in New York State. We don't need any more phosphorus in the lake. Phosphorus is the fertilizer that fertilizes the algae. Now, I'd like to just touch upon real quickly your zoning ordinance. Section 158(7)E says, any use not permitted by this chapter shall be deemed to be prohibited. There's no mention in the table of general use regulations for that zoning district, an LS district, that permits outdoor entertainment venues. And I noticed in the presentation, I guess they forgot to mention that there's a 100-seat outdoor entertainment venue. It was presented to DEC as an entertainment facility, not a greenhouse place. Now, I got to tell you this, it's great if you can clean up the mess that's at that site, and that's an admirable thing to do, but do it right. As far as the entrance on Shore Drive, the owners of this property do not own frontage on Shore Drive. They have to cross an adjacent property. The property that they're proposing to cross with an easement to allow for their roadway is currently occupied by 3 buildings. Those 3 buildings contain 2 and possibly 3 dwelling units, as well as a commercial establishment. The commercial establishment, by the way, is operating outside the zoning because it's actually a construction business and not a retail. All right. It's a pre-existing, non-conforming lot of record, and that's fine. It was grandfathered in from many years ago. However, running a roadway across it is going to make it more non-conforming and would require a variance from the zoning board in order for that to happen. The sewage treatment plant, you have no guarantee that you'll ever get a permit from the state to operate it, because if the people at the lake have anything to say about it, we will fight it just like we fought Stewart Airport and fought a bunch of these other things.
Thank you very much.
Good luck with the venue. I'd like to see the place cleaned up. I mean, I go back to when that was Rose Acres and the Wenting family owned it, okay, way before the Pennings.
But you don't go back to 1935, do you?
No, not that old.
Okay.
Getting there, though, I feel like it.
All right.
Thank you.
Mildred Collard? Mildred Collard? Say?
A lot of people signed that.
Okay. Sorry. Christopher Rossini. Christopher Rossini? You just, okay. Christopher Rossini. Nina? I'm sorry, sometimes I can't really read the writing. Nina? She passes. Jesus. Eric Halverson or Halversian? Okay, thank you. Nancy R. I cannot read your last name. Unfortunately, when people sign in, I apologize, but it's sometimes difficult to read the writing. Can you read that? Nancy. Is there a Nancy here? Okay. Well, I'll just pass on Nancy for the time being. Scott Teresi. And on deck would be Fred Widman.
Good evening. My name is Scott Teresi. I am a small business owner and the president of the Greater Cornwall Chamber of Commerce. I'm here today as a resident of Cornwall to support the Cornwall Social project. I understand there are a lot of issues and concerns that the residents have with regards to this project. However, this is the kind of project that we should really be supporting. As Mr. Evans said, it's about taking something ugly and making it beautiful. And I think we can do that, and we can do it in a way that, that we can come together as a community and make that happen by following in addressing the concerns, the very relevant concerns that the community is bringing up tonight. The other reason why I think it's important that we support this project is that it is very much in line with the Town of Cornwall's comprehensive plan. If you go back and you look at that comprehensive plan from 2018, it clearly states the plan envisions an involved, diverse, successful community that supports small business, encourages beneficial, low-impact tourism, and supports our cultural, natural, recreational, agricultural, and historic assets. That is exactly what this project is doing. And it is a project that is very uncommon that we get to see in Orange County these days.
Excuse me.
I'm a Cornwall resident and a community member.
Excuse me, sir. Courtesy is really, really cheap. You don't have to shout out, please. Give the gentleman an opportunity to speak. If you want to speak, you can sign up and come and speak. Thank you.
So just in closing, this is a rare project. It's a rare project because we have local residents investing in the community a significant amount to have really a game-changing project in our community, not just for now, but potentially for years and years and generations to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Fred Widman. Fred, on deck is Larry Weinberg.
Good evening. My name is Fred Widman. I live on Shore Drive. And first of all, I want to commend this group for the project that they're proposing. I think it's going to be a beautiful addition to the community. However, as a resident of Beaver Dam Lake and a person who's on the board and been personally involved with water testing for the last 6 years, along with Mr. Rossini, that we are concerned, earnestly concerned with anything that would affect the quality of the lake water. With that, based on the information that I've received so far, the board would like to request denial of the water treatment facility that's planned for this operation because of the inability to monitor anything that may happen if something goes wrong with this, because then it goes right into the lake. And we have spent countless thousands of dollars to maintain the quality of this lake, and we don't want anything else adding to its problem. Also, the stormwater runoff. What is being done to monitor the stormwater that's going to be with greenhouses, with other venues on the outside, that's going to again end up in the lake? All of the residents here are concerned about the lake water because that's why we're here. We're here because of the lake. And thirdly, we're worried about traffic safety, as was brought up several times. Why in the name of all goodness are we coming off of Shore Drive to come into this facility instead of 94? It's going to be a nightmare. And the board, and I'm speaking for myself, not just the board, I think it's
a nightmare to come in off of Shore Drive. Again, I've been here for 8 years, and I know what can happen, both with that community entrance, with Cumberland, and everything else. It just scares me. It really scares me. Again, I think it's a great project, but I think a little more effort is needed to really look into the ramifications of both water runoff and traffic conditions. So again, I love our lake and I want to maintain it. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. I'll let Terry Weinberg.
I'm here. Hello.
Sorry.
So 75 Shore Drive, New Windsor. I am also on the Lake Board, but I'm not coming tonight as a board representative, as we are well represented here tonight. So I appreciate all the things that have been said by our Lake Board and all the planning you've done for this evening. But, you know, you see all the crazy things that are happening out there in the world today, and you say, well, it's not in my backyard. Well, this time it is. So I feel, as many people who I've had the pleasure of speaking to, would love to see this site be improved. We don't like the way it is currently. We welcome the change, but not at the cost of the health of our neighborhood and the lake and the streets, okay? 94 was the previous entrance for Pennings. There was absolutely no reason to use a service entrance onto a public street. It's already an issue. I pass that 4 to 6 times a day as I leave the development. There's got to be an alternative. Route 94 is the way to go. And if it's a simple path that they have to change, I think you're going to get a lot of additional buy-in on the project. I am on a well, like everybody is on a well. And these days, I turn on my water and I get a blast of air and other things happening. I'm not dry at this point, but can we afford 6,000 to 10,000 gallons a day being pulled out of the water table? I don't think so. They're going to put up some great alternatives during construction. Why not leave those alternatives up for a time being to be sure, number one, that the business is going to be viable and survive? And number two, hey, if it's a crowded night, maybe you use those porta potties. Maybe you pull in the water reserve that you have with your 2 1,500-gallon tanks. That way you don't affect the community as much. So the raw sewage is the biggest ordeal. I am a lakefront owner. I've been here since 2005. I've invested a ton of time and personal energy to protect the lake. I have volunteered for many things before I was on the board, and I'll continue to do so. But I am coming as a resident, not a board member. I care about the lake, where we live. I want to see the project go ahead and succeed, but not with water being dumped into the lake, effluent water from a treatment plant. I think you have to go back to the drawing board when it comes to this issue and figure out another alternative. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Wendy Valentine, McDonough Valentine, and on deck would be William Castellano. Going to pass, okay. Then we will have Shirley Schwartz on deck. Do we not have Wendy Valentine, or she's not, okay. Shirley Schwartz? Andy Schwartz? Sorry, passing, okay. Kevin Ward?
For the BIG Eastwoods.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mark, I'm sorry. Skycoat, Mark. They don't teach this in school. There is a Mark. Is there a Mark here? All Marks, raise your hand. Any Marks? Going once? Mark, who wants to speak? No. Okay, we'll cross that off. Kevin Moore, no. Okay. Louis Argenio. Louis passing. Okay. Liz Dunn. Sorry? Oh, no, I'm sorry. Liz, what? No, maybe there's a second Liz Dunn.
Oh, there's another Liz done?
I'm not Liz Dunn. I'm Mrs. Dunn. I live on Mount Airy Road for 35 years. I enjoy this community to the ends of the world. But I have to tell you my sad story. When I bought my house 35 years ago, I was on a water system. They decided to build 2 developments in my area. They put me on somebody else's water. I'm on a well. I have been paying for someone else's water in 2 developments in my area for 35 years. It was initially a 20-year bond, and everybody thought, well, that's good. They'll pay it off in 20 years. That never happened. And it will not happen here for the people that have wells. It will not. Their taxes will be raised again and again and again. That's my sad story. In addition, I worry. I worry about who's going to handle the pollution. I worry about the impact on the traffic, especially in Valesgate. The financial impact on raising our taxes. The rural area would be tragically destroyed with the environment, water problems, emergency services, including ambulances. How would the ambulances get through? I'm a senior citizen. I want to know I can be saved. They can't avert the traffic. There's a danger to the children that attend school with the traffic. And undesirable individuals, if they have Section 8 housing, overcrowding classrooms, schools not able to accommodate children. Where's the water coming from to accommodate hundreds of apartments?
Ma'am, excuse me, ma'am?
The impact of our life would be devastation.
Hello?
Thank you.
Ma'am, you're talking about the wrong project. Sorry.
Keep that. Thank you.
Yeah, for the record, I believe you were speaking about the other project, ma'am. Sorry. Gabrielle Nayeri? I truly apologize for my mispronunciations. Barry Fromer. The other project, okay. Barbara Smith? No. Rick Gioia? Gioia? No? Pass. Okay. There's a lot of names here. Leslie Van Letty? Leslie? Pass. Tim Belly? Okay. Urdu. Does anyone speak Urdu? No. I can't really make out that one. Well, Joe Dizlowski? Yeah. And Andrew Jenna would be on deck.
Good evening, members of the board. Joe Dizlowski here, 2051 Route 94, Salisbury Mills.
Thank you.
So I spent a lot of time in Cornwall. Grew up here as a kid, played in ball fields, skated Rings Pond, fished in Beaver Dam. I am a fisherman for all you Beaver Dam folks. I'm a major property stakeholder across the street from Liz's project. So I spent a lot of time across the street and with Liz's project there. So I spent some time abroad, educated at University of Buffalo, spent the last 25 years doing a lot of large residential developments, primarily down in Westchester County. And so I've had a lot of experience with all the agencies, Army Corps, DEC, all the municipalities, all the sewer districts. And, I always believed in Cornwall because it's got this strong sense of preservation. It's got this strong sense of charm. And that's how I grew up as a kid, across the street from Jones Farm. Used to play when I was a child down at what's now the museum in the Hudson Highlands. So I do believe in the preservation component, which Cornwall's done a great job. I also believe, though, in progress. And Penning's, although once in the day was a great establishment, everyone went there and bought landscape products. Back then, who knows what kind of pesticides, herbicides, and DDT or dioxin or whatever else they were using with their facility there. Now it's become fallow, and something must be done with that. And something must be done in a relatively low impact. So you have a site that's abandoned, and it could be anything. It could be a manufacturing facility using 20, 30,000 gallons a day from wells, discharging into watersheds. I mean, a mere 5,500 gallons a day sounds like a lot, but it's really only 10 single-family homes worth of water and septic or sewage usage. And I do have confidence in all my time and experience as a developer with the engineers, both on the developer's perspective and the municipalities and the DEC, who I've met with on several occasions. I do have faith in everyone coming to the right conclusion and what can be done and what controls can be put in place regarding stormwater, sewage discharge, so that everyone is transparent and everyone has a say in the matter. Now, I do feel for Beaver Dam, and I've known it, like I said, for the last 30, 40 years. Spent a lot of time out there as a child doing a lot of work and fishing. But anyway, I don't know what troubles there are now at Beaver Dam. I'm sure they're plagued with problems of whatever it may be, as I've heard tonight from several members of the board. I think, what Liz is trying to do here with this project is to redevelop it in an appropriate manner with conservation and all those things at heart. And who knows what's going on with the property now or what it's discharging. Liz is repairing the property, bringing it to a use which I think is beneficial to the entire community. And personally myself, as I said, a major stakeholder right across the street, have faith in what she's going to do with the property. And who knows what it could be if but for Liz being here today. So I took a different path across the street. I preserved 100, 200, 300 acre farm, and that's what it'll always be, a farm. And so I understand the balance between preservation and progress, because I look at Liz's property every day and it's foul in condition, and I see that there's some potential that can be done here. So in terms of like water and sewer and traffic and all these other things, traffic, Liz's business is probably going to be an off-peak traffic. I drive my daughter to the high school every day. I know what the traffic is on Route 94. Liz's business is more of an off-peak, weekend, nights type traffic. The engineers, as far as the sewerage goes, you got her engineers, the town's engineers, the DEC. I'm sure there's some reasonable guidelines, and I'm sure Liz's standards are probably more stringent than a commercial standard of someone that could come in there and discharge who knows what. And I also understand that the municipalities can put certain controls in place, whether it be sewer districts, drainage districts, and have some sort of governing ability on what's going on to maintain the safety of the site. So I advocate for her project.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Excuse me, please. Andrew Jenna? Andrew Jenna? Okay, thank you. Pat McNamara? On deck, John McNamara. John McNamara. Okay. Mr. and Mrs. DeStefano? Passing. Howard Allen Kane?
Second project.
Second project, wrong project, okay. Kristen Doyle? And Tom, is there a Tom here? L something. Lane, perhaps? Are there Toms? No Toms. Are there any Toms wishing to speak? Okay, then Tom. Gone. Okay, and Kristen Doyle, did I ask for Kristen Doyle already? Okay. Okay, now that I have finished my list, is there anyone else who would like to speak? You can raise your hand and you can introduce yourself then, please. Could you, yeah, and I'll ask for your autograph after, okay?
It's on the back.
I'm sorry?
It's in the back.
It's in the back. Oh, it's already signed up back there?
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
I'm Michael Toller. I live about 150 yards.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Michael?
Toller, T-O-L-E-R.
Thank you.
I live on Beaver Dam Lake on Waterview Terrace. There's about, I think, 8 or 9 houses, a new one going in now. All of us are on well water. and we're about 150 yards from the site of the former Pennings farm. Biggest concern, of course, is pollution of our well water. And also, as other people have already spoke, of runoff into the lake, because I'm on the lake. The second concern that I have is increased traffic. I've observed at least 3 accidents at the corner of 94 and Shore Drive over the last few years. I've lived there now for 23 years. And it gets worse all the time as more and more people move into the area, farms are sold, and areas are developed all around us. I believe that similar to what had to happen at Jackson Avenue, you're going to require a traffic light at that corner of Cumberland Farms and this development for the social club. I don't have anything against the social club. The concern is what to do with wastewater and then the traffic. That's all.
Thank you very much, sir. Please.
Good evening, Mike Moran, 25 Twin Ponds Road, New Windsor. And I want to thank Gabe and Liz for presenting tonight. And I do support the overall vision for the site and sustainable development of our area. I live directly on the pond. I share the Pondus property with the site right across from it. And my primary concern is the wastewater and sewage effluent and where that would be going in the pond. So essentially, my primary concern is the health of the pond itself, our well water, the health of my family. I paddleboard on this pond. I have a 2-year-old boy, infant on the way, and I would like to know more about the DEC limits and the approval process for this potential sewage effluent into the pond, which also drains directly into Beaver Dam Lake. So I share that concern because I also swim and play on Beaver Dam Lake. And just to name some of the wildlife that share this area with us: bald eagles, herons, migrant ducks, muskrat, beaver, mink, amphibians like spring peepers, gray tree frogs, all share this property and pond with us, and they don't have a voice here. So I hope we can welcome this exciting project. I do. I just hope we can preserve the pond and natural health of our area as well.
Thank you very much. Are there other members of the general public wishing to make a comment? Ma'am?
I actually have more of a question. This presentation.
Excuse me, ma'am, could you give your name?
Sure. Kate Krimsky, Krimsky. Where can we see the presentation that was given at the beginning of this session? Is it posted on the town's website? Is there anywhere we can review it more closely? I think it would answer a lot of our questions, but it was a pretty quick pace.
It'll be posted on the town's website.
It will be posted, is not yet. Thank you.
Sorry. Okay. Any other members of the general? Sir.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Vincent Saldana. I live at 2 Lakewood Drive, which is right up the road from where they're proposing this project. And I'd like to say that it sounds like a great project. I mean, who doesn't like a cafe and farm stand and all of that good stuff? But we just have to make sure that we do it in the right way. I have a question. I'd like to know why that the town refused the use of the town sewer. Can anybody answer that question?
It's not in the town of Cornwall. The sewage access would be through New Windsor. So I'll ask our attorney to address that.
I mean, that's correct, but it's not a question.
Oh, yeah, so I'm not supposed to answer.
So how do we find out about that? I mean, why isn't the town sewer system being used?
Excuse me. Thank you.
Well, anyway, I've lived along this road for 33 years, and I'm sure that these are very nice people. They're looking to start a business and do well, and I know you said you've lived in this area for many years, and you have a family here, and you've enjoyed this area. Well, so have my daughters. My daughters have lived and rode their bikes to Cumberland. People are walking their dogs. People are running around the lake. We're going to have a tremendous amount of traffic here. There's also been a lot of robberies that have taken place at Cumberland Farms because it was open late, and because of that, they decided that they had to close early. And this the impact, this sewer system that they're trying to put in. What if there's a power failure? What if the sewer system, it breaks and it overflows? That sewer water is going to come right through the property of my house. There's a stream that goes through the property of my house, goes into a pond that I would like to have koi in one day, and hopefully they're not going to, they're going to live, and which goes right into the lake. So, what kind of assurance do we have that that pumping station or filtering station is going to work? What if there's a power failure? What if there's a really bad storm? The last time we had a really bad storm, the stream overflowed and the water was coming up within 10 feet of my house. So we need to know more information on that and exactly what's going to go on. I mean, the cafe sounds nice and the farm stand sounds nice, but if there's going to be weddings there someday, there's going to be a tremendous amount of traffic. There's going to be late hours to where, my daughter walking down the road, walking the dog, or riding her bike to Cumberland, it's not going to be a safe, direction for them. And like many people have said here, there's no reason why that we can't come in from 94. And everybody talks about Pennings. Pennings grew tulips there. It was a wonderful place. And I'm sure that what these nice people are trying to propose, it's a great thing, but we just have to make sure that it's done in the right way. And I believe that's what your job is as the planning board, to protect the people of Cornwall and make sure that, yes, we want to develop the area and bring nice things to our area, but it has to be done in the right way. And I think that's the idea of what you people are trying to do, right? You're supposed to be here to protect the people of Cornwall and make sure that this project is done in the right way. Is that right?
Well, I'm not here to answer questions, but I will tell you that the planning board is here to make sure that a project adheres to the current zoning, just so you know.
I mean, this area is a residential area. We've enjoyed this area for years, just like these nice people have with their family. And I mean, now they're trying to start a business here and make money, which is a great thing. But, we just have to get it done in the right way.
Thank you, sir.
So that's all I have to say.
Your
Thank you.
concerns are duly noted. Thank you. Are there other members of the general public wishing? Is that a hand? Yes, it is a hand. Okay, and another after that. Okay, I'll get you after that.
Just a quick question. What is the deadline for submitting written comments?
Fair question. I'll address that right after but I won't forget.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Doty of 24 Skyline Trail. I was the first name you called. I realize I said no. I just have one very quick question, and I thought it would get answered, and it didn't. One of the statements said is site plan mixed use, indoor, outdoor activities. That was addressed. Restaurant was addressed. Residential. I didn't see any information about residential, and I think a lot of people here are concerned about the next conversation about the residential site plan. My question is residential, what exactly is that encompassing? Is that apartments? Is that homes? How many homes?
I'm sorry for interrupting you, but I think you're addressing the wrong project.
No, I'm not. I'm reading it right here. It says indoor and outdoor activities, restaurant, and residential. Your notes very specifically say residential with this.
I apologize.
So my question is, we are concerned as a community about the residential, and my feeling is everyone at large here is worried about the next project, and you obviously thought that was what I was talking about. Nobody asked what exactly is the residential involved with this social Salisbury Mills holding. How many homes, how many apartments, what's going to be involved? I think that question also needs to be answered. Thank you.
Just for the record, ma'am, that's just the existing house.
Good evening, how are you doing? Matthew Karicki, 29 Shore Drive. Fred Pettings was my next door neighbor. So my concern is traffic onto Shore Drive. It's listed as an address for Route 94. Fred used that for multiple years with no problems having cars and vehicles onto and out of 94. He used the shore entrance for deliveries, so on and so forth. I would like an environmental impact study done on what they proposed and what traffic is there. What they proposed to have 73 parking spots, you gotta also forget to add in workers. They want a venue, they want outdoor catering, and they want a walking area, so it's gonna add a lot more than 73 parking spots. The traffic going on to 94 from just this, I'm referring to, it's the traffic coming out of there onto Shore Drive. As we all know, that traffic backs up, not just during the day of school, also at night and every other day, Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays, there's a lot of traffic. I see it because I live right there. There's people walking with their dogs, there's kids with their motorcycles, quads, bicycles, parents walking their dogs, and kids up and down the street all the time. In front of my house, I say hello to them all the time. That's going to back up, and they're going to wind up going into Cumberland's Farms 2 entrances that they have there. One of those entrances is for the handful of houses that goes up to the back, and they're going to wind up having 3 accesses to 94, because people are not going to be waiting in line to get in and out of Shore Drive. So they're going to wind up going through the parking lot, causing chaos at the gas pump. So we all know that it's tight, and everything is squeezed in there now since they redone it. So we need to do an environmental impact study. I understand why they're not wanting to go on 94, because it's the cost of state and it adds a lot more to the budget, but we need to really pay attention to what is going to happen off of Shore onto 94. So, we covered the water situation quite a bit, not enough down to Shore Drive. I figure I just covered that in. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, sir, introduce yourself, please. Sir?
Paul Saccone, Maple and Oak, the corner of Maple and Oak.
I'm sorry, Paul Saccone?
Saccone.
Thank you.
As that gentleman just said, anybody who lives in the area and drives from Shore Drive onto 94 every morning, there are school buses along the side of the road, tractor trailers, sanitation trucks, every type of worker that you can find in Orange County is parked on the side of the road on Shore Drive, all around that area where they're going to use as an entrance. And it will make it totally impossible for people to move in and out. What the town would have to do at a light at 94 and Shore Drive, they'd have to expand the width of the road for Shore Drive as well as 94. If they don't do something like that, it will be disastrous for everybody, and there's no getting around it. And if you don't recognize that, then just take a ride through there at between 7 and 8 o'clock every morning, or sometime around 4:30 to 5:30 every evening, and you'll see exactly what I'm speaking of. And that goes without saying that they're concerned about the lake and what they'll do with the refuge water. I don't need to repeat what everybody else said. That's an obvious thing. The lake is a resource, and my 42 years around the lake, I've seen enough problems with it that I don't think we need any more.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members of the general public wishing to comment? Sir?
Chris Martino, 25 Shore Drive. I'm going to be their neighbor. Obviously, we all know the concerns already. My concerns are more of light noise from the traffic that's going to be coming in and out on that secondary driveway. That's not the main driveway. And the water runoff from, obviously, you're going to have that salted, and during the winter, all that water runoff into my yard, which contaminate my well. That's pretty much my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And are there any other members of the general public wishing to comment at the present? Way in the back. Oh, there's a hand. Yes. Ma'am? Oh, no, I'm talking to her, but I will speak to you if you want to come forward from the dark. Ma'am, you're going to have to come up because we really can't hear you.
So I'm just kind of piggybacking on what Kate is asking.
It's okay if you can come up so we can get your name, just for the record. It's okay.
Piggybacking on what Kate was asking as far as.
Could you say your name, please?
Carrie McCauley, I live in New Windsor. So I just want to know if anybody's ever driven through Massachusetts and gone to a rest stop. They have composting toilets. Has that been considered? What about live roofs? Has that been considered? There's a lot of things that can be done that can protect the environment. And I just don't know if you guys have considered those types of things.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. So I guess.
Are there any other members of the general public? I saw a hand over there a moment ago. Sorry? I'm sorry, people are pointing around. Oh.
How you doing? My name's Derek Spagnoli.
I'm sorry, could you repeat your name?
My name's Derek Spagnoli. You guys talk about sustainability. Look into Clivis Multrum composting toilets. Black Rock Forest has them and Cornwall Landing has them. That'll take care of this sewer discharge. You talk about your water usage. You can get 1,500 gallon water tanks and tie them into your gutters, and then that could be your water usage.
Well, thank you. Duly noted. And are there any other members of the general public wishing? Yes, wave hand. Yes. And if there's anyone else wishing to comment, if you would kind of like push forward a little bit, well, that'd be great. If not, I'm sorry to make you come forward, man, but it's difficult for us to hear.
I would just prefer to stay. I live on Shore Drive,
Could you state your name, please?
Catherine Benson, Shore Drive. Besides the whole water issue, but the concern also is you have the train station right there, which coming out of 94 and Shore Drive, you will have to wait. It's extremely a long time just to get in or out of 94 with Cumberland Farms during the time of peak business hours coming out of the train. No one's addressing that. You have over 200 spots coming in for parking at the train station. You could sit there for about 10 minutes just trying to get out. What's that going to be impacting on our commute, just coming in and out of our development? That's all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Eileen Wood, and I live on Shore Drive in the Cornwall portion of Beaver Dam Lake. I commend the individuals. It sounds like a worthwhile project, but I agree with the water issue and the sewage issue. The other thing that I want to bring up is Beaver Dam is a private lake community. We've been dealing with a lot of trespassing and vandalism in the lake community, and with accessing on Shore Drive, you're going to be inviting more people to come through the lake community. And, like I said, you're going to have more non-residents coming into the community. And I'm concerned for the safety of the community members, many who walk their dogs. There's a women's walking club that's recently started up. The kids, like many people have said, going to Cumberland Farms. But the issue of a lot of non-community members now accessing Shore Drive into a private lake community, you know they're going to make a left-hand turn and start going down shore to see let's go see what's down here. Oh, look at this nice little entranceway to the beach. Let's go hang out at the beach. And the cops aren't there 24/7. They do a great job watching the parking lots, and the residents themselves also monitor who approaches. But we can't be all eyes. So this is going to increase non-members of the community driving around Beaver Dam Lake, where, again, like I said, there's an issue with trespassing, vandalism, utilizing the lake, because if you don't live in the community, you cannot use the lake. So I just wanted to bring that up on top of the water issue, the sewage issue, and the children.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tim Crum. I live at 24 Shore Drive, which is directly across the street from the right now proposed entrance. I don't want to beat a dead horse on traffic and water supply and waste sewage. What I would like to say just briefly is we don't have paved roads. We have tar and chip roads that were just done and are already falling apart. And you already want to introduce now another 100 cars a day? Come and see our roads. When's the last time any of you were on Shore Drive? That's all.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the general public wishing to make a comment? Okay, seeing none, I have to poll the board to see about, currently, there is no acceptance of written comments. It's the board's choice whether to accept written comments and to establish a time frame. With that, I'll ask for a discussion. Mary Beth? Okay, the recommendation, okay, yes. The public comment period is over as of tonight, but the written comment period, the recommendation is to the board that we extend it for 10 days to accept written comments. Are there any other members of the board wishing to comment? May I have a second on that? Is that a motion, ma'am? Councilman? A motion is made. Second? Second, okay, all in favor? Okay, to answer your question now, wherever my questioner was, there will be a 10-day written comment period. You can submit your written comments to the building inspector's office, care of Diane, who I introduced at the beginning of the meeting.
Is email okay?
Oh, that's a very good question. Yeah, yes.
Yes, comments have to be emailed to the building department. The address is dhines, DHINES, at cornwallnewyork.gov, I believe. Correct. cornwallny.gov. Correct.
Just for the record, that 10 days would be the 16th of March because we'll do 10 business days.
Could we request that that 10-day period start once the minutes from the last meeting are published? Because there's information in those documents that are not available to the public.
Yes, the minutes, I'm told, will be ready tomorrow.
Okay, so 10 days from tomorrow?
Okay, I think that's reasonable, board. 10 days, that would make it a Friday, which is a perfect close of business. Dominic? Okay, my attorney advises me that it's 10 days from today, but the minutes will be available tomorrow. So the date would be, okay, the date would be the 16th. Okay, thank you. Okay, with that, I'll ask for a motion to close the public hearing. Second, in favor? Okay, at this moment, I'll close the public hearing concerning this project, and we will take a 2-minute break to allow our stenographer to recapture her fingers. So if anyone wants to leave, the next public hearing will be on the scope of the Biagini Woods. Yes, thank you all. And those who made comments, thank you very much. We appreciate it, and the planning board will consider them all. If everyone could please take your seats, we're about ready to just get started again.
Hey, buddy, how are you? Thanks for the phone. I do. These are more for the other.
Okay, thank you all for your patience in letting us get reset. The next will be a public scoping session on the draft DEIS for Biagini Woods. I apologize. The next portion of the meeting is a public scoping session for Biagini Woods. I'm going to toss this to our attorney, counsel Dominic Cordisco, because there are a few details, including a conflict of interest provision that we want to address right up front. And Mr. Cordisco, you're on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So to begin with, I received a request from the applicant by email regarding the need for impartiality by the planning board members. The following message was emailed to me by Paul Biagini. We, the applicant, would like any members of the planning board to recuse themselves if they will have difficulty being impartial when it comes to making decisions on the Biagini Woods application. I don't know any of the planning board members or their backgrounds, but I trust that you will make sure that there are no members on the board who have a conflict of interest. Any recusals should take place prior to the public scoping session on March 6th. What I just read was an email submission to the town. As I responded to Mr. Biagini, all correspondence and communication should be made according to the planning board standard submission requirements and should be directed to the planning board, not the board's consultants. This ensures that there's a proper record for all proceedings. Mr. Biagini's request regarding impartiality should be addressed now. As you're all aware, all planning board members have an obligation to act ethically as provided by Article 18 of New York State's General Municipal Law, the Town of Cornwall's Code of Ethics, court decisions, and opinions of the New York State Attorney General and the New York State Comptroller. This obligation requires that they avoid conflicts of interest in the discharge of their official duties. Conflicts of interest can arise where competing goals make it difficult for government officials to make decisions that protect the common good. Where conflicts of interest exist, board members should disclose the conflicts and determine whether they can fairly make decisions on the issues before the board. If the answer is yes, then there is no obligation to recuse. When the answer is no, board members should recuse themselves and not participate in discussions with other board members, vote on the issues, or otherwise influence the decision-making process. The decision to recuse is solely within the discretion of individual board members. There is no statutory basis for recusal, and recusal cannot be compelled by others. But a failure to recuse, when necessary, can have severe ramifications, including invalidation of board action and removal of a board member by judicial action. All that said, I now turn to the board and ask whether any board member wished to respond to Mr. Biagini's request.
Thank you. I have one board member who has chosen to respond.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to state on record that I am employed by the Cornwall Central School District, which is an interested party. I'm a math teacher here at Cornwall Central High School. I am not a member of Central Administration. I am not a member of the Board of Education, so I do not make decisions for the Cornwall Central School District. I'm a tenured teacher in this district, which will allow me to be independent and impartial member of this planning board. I am impartial and have not and will not prejudge this application. Thank you.
And as chairman, I am unaware of any other potential conflicts of interest among the board.
Moving on to tonight's public hearing, it's on the scope of the environmental review for this project. The scope is the outline that establishes the studies that have to be prepared by the applicant so that the planning board can consider the application. What this hearing is not. This is not a question and answer session. All comments must be addressed to the board. Neither the applicant nor the planning board is required to answer any questions tonight. Answers will come later in this process. Also, the planning board must review every application that comes before it. This is true no matter the size, scope, or level of public interest in any project. As a result, questions asking why the planning board is reviewing this proposal are not only not helpful, but are the subject of tonight's public hearing. This public hearing is your opportunity to comment on issues that should be studied by the planning board. You are free to make whatever comments you'd like, but the most helpful to the board are issues that should be studied during the environmental review of this application. This project will also require a special permit from the planning board. Once the environmental studies have been prepared and determined to be adequate for public review by the planning board will schedule a second public hearing. At that public hearing, the public will have the opportunity to review and comment on the environmental issues associated with this project, and also in more general as to whether or not the project should be allowed as it's being proposed. Following that second public hearing, the applicant will be required to prepare written responses to all substantive comments. So if you remain concerned about this project, it is important that you also appear at the second public hearing on this project. That public hearing will likely not happen for several months at the earliest, because after tonight's public hearing, the applicant will have to prepare the studies in scope to meet the scope of the environmental review. At that second public hearing, the planning board will also be considering whether or not to issue a special permit for this project. That special permit is required for this project to move forward. The requirements for a special permit use are set forth in the town zoning code, and they include the following. In reviewing such application, the planning board shall take into consideration the public health, safety, and welfare, the comfort and convenience of the public in general, and of the residents of the immediate neighborhood in particular, and may determine such appropriate conditions and safeguards as may be required in order that the result of its actions shall, to the maximum extent possible, further the expressed intent of this chapter and the accomplishment of the following objectives. 1, all proposed structures, equipment, and materials shall be readily accessible to fire and police protection. 2, the proposed use shall be of such location, size, and character that in general it will be in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development of the district in which it is proposed to be situated, and will not be detrimental to the orderly development of adjacent properties in accordance with the zoning classification of such properties. The location and size of such use, the nature and intensity of operations involved in and conducted in connection therewith, its site layout, and its relation to access streets shall be such that both pedestrian and vehicular traffic to and from the use and the assembly of persons will not be hazardous or inconvenient to, or incongruous with, or in conflict with normal traffic in the neighborhood. The location and height of buildings, the location, nature, and height of walls and fences, and the nature and extent of landscaping on the site shall be such that the use will not hinder or discourage the appropriate development and use of the adjacent land. And lastly, the impact of the proposed use shall not engender avoidable impacts upon the environment or the site or adjacent lands, and any such impacts will be the minimum necessary to accommodate the proposed use. And further, that there shall be maximum preservation of unique ecological and environmental assets, particularly as such affect the value and viability of adjacent areas. The Biagini Woods project, as proposed, will also require that the town board accept Dragon Drive as a town road. Biagini Woods will also require the town board to form a sewer district to cover the property. Biagini Woods will also require approvals from the town of New Windsor for the acceptance of sewage for treatment at the town of New Windsor sewage treatment plant. If you have any concerns regarding those potential actions by the town boards of the towns of Cornwall and New Windsor, you should direct your concerns to those boards directly. Tonight's public hearing is for the planning board, which is overseeing the environmental review for this project. Due to the number of people in attendance, just like in the last public hearing, the public will have a limited time to speak. 3 members for members of the general public, and 3 minutes, and 5 minutes for public officials and representatives. In the interest of time, if you agree with the comments of someone who spoke earlier, please let us know that that's the case, and then you can move on. We want to ensure that everyone has had a full and fair opportunity to be heard. It's been a long evening already, and we appreciate your patience. We're going to try to get to everyone. If everyone has had the opportunity to speak, then they may provide the opportunity to speak again for those who want to, if you didn't have enough time the first time around. And again, please state your name and your address for the record. Franny, our stenographer, is once again keeping minutes of this meeting. Please give her an opportunity to catch up if she needs to. And also, once again, and I cannot stress this enough, please, no outbursts from the crowd. Shouting, clapping, or yelling out is disruptive, counterproductive, and not respectful to others in the process. These types of outbursts are not helpful to the planning board, and if you're clapping or shouting while others are trying to talk, then Franny cannot hear what is being said. If anyone acts out of order, we may ask you that you be removed from the room. And lastly, written public comments on this application will also be accepted for 10 days following the close of the public hearing. If you have written comments now, please hand them up once you've spoken. If you think of something after tonight's public hearing that you wish to add, you can always send written comments afterwards to the planning board. If the public hearing closes tonight, then the written public comment period will end on Thursday, March 16th. And once again, as I said at the beginning of this meeting, it's important to note that comments made online on Facebook or YouTube or elsewhere are not part of the public record, even though this meeting is being live streamed. Written comments should be sent by email to dhines, DHINES, @cornwallny.gov. Thank you.
Thank you, Dominic. Okay, with that, I'll open the public scoping session. I'll ask Biagini Woods for a brief explanation of the project.
Good evening. For the record, Ross Wittolowitz with Engineering and Surveying Properties. We're civil engineers for the project in Montgomery, New York. Here this evening with Ed and Paul Biagini, the applicant, and Ruben Buck, the project engineer for our firm. Just want to give everybody a basic outline of where it is, because I think that's the biggest question of where the entrances are and how do we get to the project and so forth. So the project location, this is 94 Dragon Drive. If you came in here tonight, you pulled up Dragon Drive, you see there's a curb cut that was installed when the school was built right before the sign. That is the access road, and the main access road currently proposed into the site. This property was the remaining lands that was left over when the school subdivided this property in around 2000, 2002. The school only bought a certain portion of it. There's also an emergency access onto 94, where there's a historic structure that is owned by the school that at the time was going to be school offices. I don't think it's occupied currently. There would be 2 buildings off of that. There's a through road through the property around the school. So here's the school. We're sitting right here. The ball field's in the back. Through road that would follow the old railroad bed around behind the school, and the radio antennas back here. The road would actually end, and there'd be an emergency access, would follow the railroad bed and come back towards the north is unfortunately here to the left, not up, just because of the odd shape of the parcel. And it would intersect 94 in this area for emergency access to the project. So main access on Dragon Drive, emergency access here on 94, as well as another emergency access to 94 here as currently proposed. The property, it's just on the north here, on the east side. So north is this way. On the east side is the New York State Thruway. And I guess the village of Cornwall Water Plant is in this location. The property consists of 7 different tax lots. There's 149 acres in total with the property. The applicant is proposing 328 units in 17 different buildings, 3 16-unit buildings, 14 20-unit buildings. There's always the question is what's the bedroom count? There's 78 one-bedrooms, 168 two-bedrooms, and 82 three-bedrooms currently proposed. As Dominic alluded to, there'll be water to the project from the village of Cornwall Water Plant. We're in the town Cornwall Water District. When the school was serviced, there was a water line that was installed across our property. There was an easement granted by our property to the school district to allow that connection to be made. That easement gives rights to this property to connect for potable water to service the project. In addition, when the school was built, there was a sewer line that was constructed within our property along the railroad bed from 94 in this location up into the school district. Again, that easement gives rights to my client for access to sewer. As Dominic also noted, additional approvals are required from the town of New Windsor because the sewer for the project would ultimately go to the town of New Windsor sewer plant, assuming an agreement is reached with the town of New Windsor. The premise of tonight's meeting is an environmental impact statement and the scoping document for that environmental impact statement. The board has worked out a scope that's about 19 pages currently, addressing several different areas of concern that they've had with the project and that are required to be studied. I'm going to go over them briefly. Land resources, looking to study slopes, potential rock cuts and fills. Water resources, where the wetlands on the site, will they be impacted? Stormwater, where's the stormwater, how will it be treated? Floodplains, are there floodplains on the site, will they be impacted? 3, plants and animals, they're looking for any endangered species and habitat for other species that are on site and the potential impacts to those. Aesthetic resources, number 4, views of the site from adjacent properties, including the school, was one of the concerns. What is the architecture of the buildings? How are we going to be performing the lighting and the landscaping to make an aesthetically pleasing project? Archaeological resources was identified as a potential impact. There'll be a phase 1 environmental site assessment that'll be prepared, phase 1 cultural resource assessment, not environmental site assessment. Traffic and transportation has been a significant concern of the board. There'll be a traffic study performed. The board has a consultant, Phil Greeley, who has advised the board on the intersections they would like us to analyze as part of the impacts. Obviously, the big concern is Dragon Drive, which is the access to this property. Just to be clear, too, the property also has an easement across Dragon Drive, even though it's currently not a public road as far as being dedicated to the town. We have easement rights for access across that. That was all part of the subdivision that created the school parcel. The bill has also asked us to address utilities, so water and sewer, gas, electric, so forth. Number 8, any potential impacts to human health. 9, community facilities, police, fire, recreation. There was a significant concern about recreational impacts potentially from the project. Fiscal impacts from the project. And last but not least, land use and zoning. and how we comply with the town's standards regarding land use and zoning. I think that's a brief summary of everything. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, with that, I'll open the public scoping session. I'll ask Mr. Ted Warren if he's here. Mr. Warren?
What's that? Oh, other microphone? Should I use the other one? Okay. Good evening. Edward Warren. I'm here, 69 Hasbrook Avenue, Cornwall, New York. I'm here tonight representing the Cornwall Conservation Advisory Council. In 2021, the town of Cornwall officially adopted the Cornwall Natural Heritage Project, which is essentially an open space index or inventory that identifies certain areas in the town as conservation priority areas. One of those conservation priority areas includes the parcels we're discussing here tonight, and that prioritization was based on contiguous tree cover, proximity to significant wetlands, habitat connectivity to other priority areas in the town, viewshed concerns, and opportunities for recreational resources. I'm trying to keep it brief. I'm going to send a longer version of our comments to the board. I'm trying to keep it brief tonight, although this doesn't feel very brief right now as I look at it. Concern number one is wetlands. It's important, we feel, that everyone involved in the project be aware of that the boundaries of wetlands are often ill-defined. Where a wetland begins and ends can be blurry, with hydric soils and bog often lying in between identified wetland and buildable ground. DEC wetland regulations include a 100-foot buffer around assumed wetlands. However, it's widely recognized by numerous environmental organizations that a 100-foot buffer is inadequate to effectively protect sensitive wetland areas from storm runoff and chemical pollutants from vehicles, road salting, lawn care, things like that. As the applicant's site plans currently stand, there are multiple encroachments into the 100-foot buffer. But more important than these individual encroachments is the fact that significant portions of this development would be built right up against the edge of that 100-foot buffer. That includes impervious roofs and vehicle parking areas. Given that there are no setbacks required in the mixed residential zoning district, if I'm not mistaken, given that our area has seen a marked increase in heavy precipitation events, and given that the general topography of the area, it's important to understand how the applicant is going to control polluted stormwater runoff so that it does not negatively impact the existing wetlands. How's the applicant going to ensure that thousands of gallons of water that are currently intercepted by trees and soil on the site are not going to flood other nearby low-lying areas? And what additional measures will the applicant take to ensure that the existing soils outside of that 100-foot buffer are capable of supporting multifamily structures, and that flooding in and around those structures will not be a regular occurrence? The planning board should require the applicant to do a thorough analysis of potential stormwater runoff scenarios that are informed by projected precipitation increases, not current precipitation, and to produce a detailed management plan that will protect the wetland, the remaining forested land in the area, and other nearby privately owned properties. The planning board should also consider imposing setback requirements to protect both the natural resources outside the area of disturbance for the project, as well as the security and privacy of the high school complex on the west side of the proposed area of development. Concern number two is tree canopy loss and climate resilience. The net lot area of this project, after accounting for unbuildable areas, such as water bodies and slopes greater than 25%, is roughly 76 acres. Based on the stated net lot area identified by the applicant, and based on the typical clearing and grading needed to construct a project of this scope, we plotted a conservative, in my opinion, 52-acre area of probable tree loss with the tree canopy benefit assessment tool, and derived the following analysis. A loss of more than 71 tons of carbon sequestration per year, a loss of more than 2,241 gallons per year of water interception, which is water being held in place by root systems of the trees. In terms of air quality, 52 acres of trees are responsible for the removal of almost 1,000 pounds of particulate matter, which is the pollution that contributes to childhood asthma. The removal of this number of trees will impact stormwater drainage, the potential for local flooding, air quality, and could contribute to increased potential for droughts. These are all things that are in direct contradiction to the state's Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act that was passed last year and endeavors to increase climate resiliency throughout the state. The applicant should be required to describe in precise detail what they would do to mitigate these impacts and how they will offset the loss of this amount of tree canopy. This should include renewable energy improvements on the property, tree replacement in alternate locations, and energy-efficient construction techniques that will conserve energy and reduce the carbon footprint of the project. Any tree replacement plan should include a plan for maintenance of the trees for at least a year to ensure their survival. Concern number 3 involves habitat loss and land disturbance. A review of the DEC's natural resource mapper shows that these parcels are within the DEC recognized bat foraging area, and portions of the project lie within the DEC recognized important area for rare terrestrial animals. There's also a stream that runs through portions of the project, and the potential impacts to the riparian habitat of that stream deserve analysis as well. The DEC not only encourages on-the-ground verification of exact wetland boundaries, but also the presence of hydric soils and vernal pools, which provide vital habitat for amphibian species, as well as the presence of endangered or threatened species. Thorough habitat and biodiversity analysis performed by an independent entity, preferably recommended by the planning board and not hired by the applicant, should be required by this board of the applicant to ensure that the town of Cornwall has a full understanding of what could potentially be lost with this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Mr. Warren, you're sending that written copy, right? You're providing the written, okay, great, thanks. Okay, thank you. Mr. Skoufis, or Senator Skoufis, I should say, sorry.
Good evening, and thank you very much. James Skoufis, 6 Robert Road, Town of Cornwall resident and state senator for the community. I first want to lead with thanking you all on the planning board. Your volunteers, you provide this as a public service. You all have families, you all have lives. And I've got to say, the email that was read earlier, I have never heard of an email like that sent to a municipal board by an applicant. That was obnoxious, that was rude, and it was uncalled for. And so I want to lead by thanking all of you, because that's the only kind of message that should be sent by an applicant to all of you, not what you had to read. When there's development that includes 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 homes, it doesn't have a real meaningful impact on the larger community. Yes, of course, you've got to still do your due diligence, but you don't get an auditorium packed full of people in the community. There isn't, huge concern typically with those types of proposals. When you have a 328 unit proposal, there needs to be greater scrutiny. And of course, there is a sizable impact on a community, town of Cornwall, of a little over 10,000 people. It's Cornwall Central School District. And when you have projects of that size, there are 2 types of developers. There are 2 categories of developers. There are those developers that are looking to be bad neighbors, and then there are developers that are looking to be good neighbors in that community. And that's the most basic distilled version of these types of projects. The bad developers, they try and come into a community, build whatever they can get away with, not care about community input and concerns, and then get out with as much money as they can get away with. The good developers, and they exist for projects of this size, no matter the meaningful impact that the sizes of those projects have, the good developers, before they even submit an application, they're in the community talking with local residents in the area, in the community, talking with leaders in that community. Here's what we're thinking of doing. We want to hear from you first. And that obviously did not happen here. What we have here is, I believe, a project proposed by a bad developer. And the simple matter of fact is, you've got all sorts of issues. We've got seniors in the town of Cornwall and town of New Windsor who can't afford to live here and would be dying to get some senior housing available. How much senior housing is part of this project? As far as I know, none. We've got traffic problems and concerns, which I'm sure you'll hear a lot of from the rest of the night. Putting aside the illogical decision of the primary access route being from Dragon Drive here, putting that aside, is the developer going to financially contribute towards widening Route 94? Is the developer going to financially contribute towards improving Five Corners? Because we're going to have close to 1,000 new cars on the road that don't exist today. When we talk about taxes, you're going to have 1,000 or so people in these 328 units. A few hundred of them are going to be children because there are no senior housing earmarked in these units. You're going to have a few hundred children. Are they going to help build a new elementary school? There's no classroom space. We couldn't even fit universal pre-K in the Cornwall Central School District. Where are 300, 400 children going to go? They're going to help build a new elementary school? Are they going to propose any new public amenities? One of the big factors here, when you've got a big development, bad developer, good developer, yes, you're building something that's going to, in theory, assist with the people who you hope will be living in the community. What are you going to do to improve the community that you are looking to impact? Are there any public amenities? Are there going to be any educational opportunities for the school building that you are sited right next to and will be disturbing in a very significant way? All of these issues seem to have not been considered, not been contemplated, or if they were contemplated, disregarded. And so, yeah, this is a scoping session, and when the time comes, I hope that this planning board looks unfavorably upon this application, upon this very clearly, based on the email that was sent, based on this proposal from a developer who is only interested in building whatever they can get away with and leaving with a sack of money. They don't care about the community, and that's where you come in. You've got to make sure that they're forced to care about this community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Senator. Virginia Scott.
Virginia Scott. I am councilwoman in the town of Cornwall, and it's kind of difficult to follow Senator Skoufis, but I'll do my best. Senator Skoufis is right. I look at this project, and I'm going to tell you the last time I've seen this project of any magnitude was when I was about 10 years old. Laurel Crest, right? Housing developments. Never seen apartment buildings, these units of any magnitude, but that's a personal thing. This is being proposed to be built along wetlands. The water table is actually high. I've spoken to people who actually live as far as Brook Hollow that are concerned about erosion, the change in the path of the water, potential flooding. We can get into traffic, which I know is going to be mentioned a lot. I don't want Cornwall to make the same mistakes that New Windsor has with their planning and zoning. Look at 207. Look at 94. Look at 32. You want to talk about quality of life? I avoid this road. 94, I can't imagine driving my kids to school. They're older. Can't imagine quality of life. I can't imagine. I worry about the safety of people in this community, just if there's an emergency. How are we going to get them? One way in, one way out. I know there's emergency access, but again, how are they going to get there? I think now as a local representative, I think about the impact of on our budgets, right? We talk about perhaps an increase in our police emergency services. Thinking about this idea or considering an idea of creating a sewer and, district, we're actually going through millions of dollars where we're actually improving our sewer district. And I know it's New Windsor, but there's this idea of having Cornwall create a sewer district. And I'm concerned about getting involved in that. But once I see the plans, maybe I'll be a little softer on that. But this idea of reducing traffic and driving, the one thing I do also want to talk about is there was an initial plan for quality of life for the people who live here. And let's face it, people all want a place to live, and there are trade-offs to this. There was a recreational facility, right, that were actually proposed for people who live here so they don't have to get in their cars and drive elsewhere and stress other municipalities that are dealing with a high demand in recreation programs. So I would encourage the developer to re-examine that, because that's how you're a good neighbor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Supervisor Wojciechowski.
Okay, so how am I going to follow Skoufis on that? So look, first let me start out by saying, look, we have a very experienced and skilled planning board. We have a longtime planning board chair who has served our community well over the years, so I think we need to recognize that. I believe they always have the interests of our community at heart, and I trust them to do what's right when it comes to projects that are before the planning board. Look, our community, we have a strong sense of preservation in Cornwall. We're the home of the modern environmental movement. So I think that says a lot about what we value in Cornwall, and how our planning board and our conservation advisory committee and how the public generally sees projects that come before the board. Look, on Saturday, in preparation for this hearing, I ended up taking a walk. There is an old rail line that goes through the back of the property. And I know that OSI is interested in connecting to the county's heritage trail. And so when you take a walk along that trail, you really get a good idea as to the entire scope of this project. So I did that because I wanted to familiarize myself with the possible impact of this project. And so look, let me say this. We've got, and I'm going to strictly, stick to the issues that are, that the planning board has to consider. So look, in terms of wetlands, yeah, there's a lot of wetlands back there. And so that is certainly a concern. There's not a lot of room between the wetlands and the proposed, buildings. We've also got, we've got traffic issues, right? State DOT, they're going to have to weigh in on this. So that, that's a major concern. And so the thing about this project is, it's a multi-jurisdictional project. A number of folks are going to have to weigh in on this. So I think that's really important because we're going to really get all the issues out here. And look, I guess the other thing I would add as well, anytime you have a large proposed development, it's important to listen to the concerns of the public and the major stakeholders. I really hope we get that tonight. I hope we really get serious comments and issues that the public has with the areas that the planning board has to consider. This is a really long process that's going to take a while, and I want the planning board to have all the information that they need to do their job. The town board certainly has some things to consider as well, as does New Windsor, as does other jurisdictions. But look, I think overall, I just think that we need to let the planning board do their job. They've done well by Cornwall in the past. I think we need to let them do their job here. And so, I'm just going to close with that, please, I want to thank them for being here because, look, this is going to be a long night. They're going to be here until, I don't know, maybe midnight. And, they're also considering other large projects going on in Cornwall. So they've got a lot of work that they're doing. This is a lot of work for them, and they take their jobs very seriously. So, let's just all thank them for that work. And let's just try to have a thoughtful, let's give them thoughtful feedback to them going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. We appreciate the compliments as well. John Zaza? Sorry? Pass, okay. Brendan Cardy. And on deck would be Michael Novotny. hearing it. You tell somebody it's going to be a long night and they disappear. Is this Michael Novotny walking down? Are you walking down to talk?
Brendan Carty.
Oh, hello. Brendan?
Sorry, it took me a minute. My entire lower half was asleep. I just want to, that more of a description than a joke. I just want to say thank you again. I know you've been thanked tonight. I know what it feels like, so thank you for this public service. You're certainly earning your paychecks tonight. So it's Brendan Carty. I'm the president of the Cornwall Central School District Board of Education. My address is 14 Robert Road here in Cornwall. The board will be submitting a comprehensive list of questions and concerns regarding the Beaver Woods project prior to the March 16th deadline. For tonight, I'd just like to focus on 3 issues that affect our district and students acutely. Number 1 is the water and sewer utilities. The school district owns the sewer lines from the high school to the New Windsor sewer treatment plant. My question is, to be addressed at some point, does the Beaver project plan to tap into our sewer lines? We're very concerned with the impact this would have on our water supply and would like for this to be addressed. Next has been referenced already is the playing fields. It is my understanding that a previous version of this plan included playing fields for the apartment complex. These have now been removed from the plan. This is another concern as the school district's field space is already stretched very thin as it is. To have a large apartment complex with children with no place for these children to play would inevitably mean more stress on those fields. This would present major logistical concerns. And finally, for now, is the traffic issue. The Beaver Woods project plans to access Dragon Drive, which is the only roadway connecting the high school to Route 94. On a regular school day, the traffic during arrival, departure, sports, and special events at this school is already very congested. The added traffic from this complex could make it more difficult to operate our instructional day on time. And that's a key point, because when we talk about traffic, in this case, we're not just talking about headache and quality of life. The traffic burden of this complex would be borne on the shoulders of our children who we are here to educate. So while performing the traffic study that you mentioned, I urge you to consider this and to look beyond the typical impact of people on the road and also consider the impact to the children in these halls. The board will submit its full concerns by the 16th. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Brendan. Michael Novotny is not here? Oh, Michael, yes. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, William Ford. On deck are Paul and Elizabeth Doty. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I am Billy Ford from Cathy Court in Cornwall. The property we're in the court is at the railroad tie. It's right at the back of our property.
Well, yeah, can you speak?
Okay. Okay. And we want to make sure that this fire access road is a fire access road and it's not used for traffic. I don't know, I'm getting hoarse and I'm sorry. The traffic road is supposed to be a rural road built specifically for the purpose of access for fire management vehicles.
Excuse me, sir. The stenographer's having difficulty understanding.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm getting hoarse.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm sitting there all the time not talking.
I get it.
But we just wanted to be sure that a fire access road is going to be just a fire access road and it's not going to be open for vehicles.
Let me repeat what you said and see if I had this correctly, that you were concerned that the emergency access road was not used as a primary access road. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Michael Toller or Toller? Not here. Okay. Nancy Bryan?
Nancy Bryan, 80 Quaker Avenue, Town of Cornwall.
So one of the first things I want to mention is that their documents that were accessible to us mentioned correspondence from the Cornwall School District and emergency service providers in the appendices, and they were not there. I'm sorry. So all those documents that they referenced as far as correspondence from the school district and emergency services providers in their appendices, there was no appendices in the documents.
Just want to be clear, this is a scope of what they have to submit in the future when they actually
Okay,
submit
thank
it.
you.
So it's not done
It's
yet.
shocking to me that there was 21 items on their DEIS, and I would certainly encourage you to not go ahead with this project. For the fact that these developers would dare to question the integrity of this planning board is beyond shocking to me. And I'm going to tell you, I question their integrity because I know personally that they never contacted the town of New Windsor until the town of New Windsor contacted them, as I said in my letter to you. And they also never contacted the Valesgate Fire Department initially, which is whose fire district this is. So I would certainly question their integrity, and I would certainly, the other last thing I want to say is, as far as the traffic goes, we need to put the health, safety, and welfare of our children at the forefront. And the fact that they dare to even think that they can consider drag and drive is an insult to every one of us in this community and every parent who has a child that is eventually going to be going up to the high school and who is at the high school now, including all the employees for this district. That should never even be a consideration because you will endanger the health and safety and welfare of everyone who uses that. Moving forward, if you're going to do a traffic study, it needs to be a real traffic study. It needs to be not be one where the traffic consultant, as he said at a meeting, oh, well, probably they'll access off a drag and drive. How about we do a real traffic study where you actually have traffic numbers from early in the morning to late at night, because this building is used continually. And until you know that, you will never know what traffic it is. And if the developers would like me to contact Lance McMillan personally from DOT, I would be happy to do that for them, because I'd like to know why Route 94 isn't being considered, and let them put a stoplight in and let them own the light. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. Dennis Kearns and Christine Little on deck.
Hi. Good job, everybody. Can you hear me? My name is Dennis Kearns. I live at 25 Meadowbrook Lane, which backs up to their future access road there. And I'm concerned, like Mr. Ford was before, that that's going to be eventually made into a town road, which I don't know, there's a line that goes down the middle of it, and that scares me. The whole project scares me, but everybody else is going to tell you about that. I'm just worried about that, and the fact that, I don't know this man, but I've seen things like this happen before, where somebody will start a project and then sell it to somebody else. And that's what scares me. That's what happened in Monroe. A lot of times lawyers come in and they buy stuff and it's approved by the town, and then somebody else builds in it, and the whole town goes under. I'm not mentioning any names or any groups, but we all know what's going on here. This man might be perfectly legit with building this, but it scares me that I live right there. And I don't want to see that road behind my house. It's an old railroad bed, which somebody says could be the Heritage Trail, but I don't know, and nobody else knows, okay? If you can, are they going to pave it? I don't know. So anyway, thank you for your time, and there's an awful lot of wetlands back there too that might affect everything. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Christine Little and Kathy Squillini on deck? No? Okay. Joan Murphy on deck? A lot of on-deckers here. Albert Gilman on deck? Okay, sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. Christine Little, I'm a resident of town in New Windsor. I'm also speaking as a school nurse, not for this district, but I have almost 15 years of experience as a master's prepared pediatric nurse. So I'm just going to speak on some health issues. I'm just going to go down a list in no particular order. only one point of egress, 984 potential cars coming in and out. Existing emergency access road, 2 of them. Who will be maintaining them? Will there be a locked gate that can be accessible by emergency services? Those emergency access roads, I work currently with teenagers. You're building around a high school. They are prime areas for troublemaking. Wetland disturbance, tremendous amount of impervious surface added to run off into the federal wetlands. Short-term risks of building so close to a school. Water problems and runoff. Construction noise during the school day. Silica dust, which is an OSHA violation that is guaranteed to be kicked up during a massive project like this. Large amounts of unknown personnel in the vicinity of students. Long-term risks. Large amounts of people that are unknown in the vicinity of students. Exhaust from the potential of 984 new vehicles. Light pollution. Noise year-round, runoff to the school fields and the federal wetlands, extreme traffic. Let's not forget how many new student drivers we have going up and down Dragon Drive, and 1,000 new cars will be 1,000 new obstacles for them to avoid. 94 is always a nightmare. What is the maximum height of these new buildings? And do our fire trucks have ladders tall enough to reach these maximum heights? Will the residents of these new buildings complain about the noise and the lights at the high school? Do we have enough water to spare? The town of New Windsor has been rejecting other projects for lack of sewer space. I will be contacting the town of New Windsor to voice my objections with them. If they should be permitted to tap in, they should be caused to pay the entire cost. The taxpayers of New Windsor should not bear that burden. Dumpsters. Look at the locations of the dumpsters on this map, on this plan. Building 1 has very close to resident named Bankus and 94. Building 2, the same. 3, 4, and 5 are very close to the property line. 6 and 7 are close to the school property line. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17 will have potential runoff into the athletic fields and the federal wetlands. Garbage brings stench, animals, potential chemical and contaminants to the wetlands, bees and insects, which students could have allergies to. Asthma, noise from the trucks and exhaust from the trucks. The removal of old-growth trees, animal habitats, the water table, archaeologic sites. I'm not sure if I'm seeing it correctly, but it looked like there were some old stone walls. We've heard about the old railroad. I'm sure that there are tremendous areas of archaeologic interest back there. Blasting. What time of year? How long will this happen? Will it be during the school day? What is the protection for the local persons and property in the area? Can schools accommodate the growth?
Excuse me, ma'am, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
3 minutes?
Yeah.
Yep. Fire trucks and buses, do they have the turn radius on this one road in and out? I'll end there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Albert Gilman and A. Dunn is on deck.
Yes, good evening. How are you? My name is actually Alberto Gilman. I'm representing the Mid-Hudson Times here, a local newspaper. My question really, and I'm sure clarification will be provided, but based upon the actual application and all of the additional reports that you, planning board, will be looking at, has there been a projected timeline in terms of this project? Certain projects that I've seen in other municipalities either take about 18 months or so, but based upon future records or future approvals, has a timeline been determined? In addition, as most of the additional comments have been stated, has the planning board considered air quality tests, lighting tests, as well as noise pollution tests? In terms of the traffic, there are 3 major intersections: Mount Airy Road, State Route 94, the Vales Gate, Five Corners intersection, as well as the Jackson Avenue and 94 intersection. And now with the additional proposed emergency access, in the traffic study, will the applicant be looking at, or the traffic consultant be looking at stacking of those four particular roads? And in terms of the emergency access road, the current road that it would be connecting to, if proposed, would be connecting to a 30-mile-per-hour road already. Has there been a determination of changing this actual speed of the road here, where it is already listed at 15 miles per hour? Is that going to be changing? In addition to the natural impacts of this project, other municipalities have adopted a tree preservation law or an ordinance. I'm sure that some of you may be familiar with that. Has there been any sort of discussion with that in the town? In addition, does the applicant consider planting or replanting any trees that may have been disturbed? Is there going to be more natural-based landscaping built into this project based off of your consultants? Also, too, I believe the determination of building height was also addressed. We just wanted to get some additional clarification on that as well. So yeah, those are all of my comments and questions. I thank you for your time. Have a good night.
That's terrific. Thank you very much. David Zagan?
Good evening. My name is David Zagon. I'm the town attorney in the town of New Windsor, and I'm here on behalf of the town board from the town of New Windsor. I wrote your board a letter back in either November or December when we received the draft environmental impact statement to express the board's concerns with regard to one particular issue, which I believe is germane to the discussion tonight, and that is the idea that the applicant can and plans to apparently still send sewage from the project to the town of New Windsor's sewer treatment plant. As was stated in the letter that I sent to you, neither the town of Cornwall nor another private entity that happens to have some rights to send some capacity to the plant in New Windsor, nor the applicant in this particular case, has any rights at this point in time, as the project is proposed to send any of that flow to the New Windsor sewer treatment plant. And as of now, based upon the project, again, as has been proposed, the town of New Windsor has no intention of accepting any of that flow. I was a bit disturbed, I guess, to hear Mr. Winklovitz in his presentation, seemingly not dissuaded at all, despite the fact that all of that, the information that I've provided to you by way of my prior correspondence and this evening has seemingly changed their mind at all. More so, I heard another comment with regard to an easement that they seemingly believe gives them the rights to send the flow that I've been discussing here to the plant. Unless there's another easement that I'm unaware of, the easement I believe that they're referencing gives them no such rights. So, that is all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. For the record, we are in receipt of that letter. Okay, A. Dunn. I'm sorry. Oh, you spoke. Okay, I'm sorry. Sylvia Santolo? Oh, Sylvia.
No, I just find it, sorry.
Okay. Some I recognize the mistake, David. I have you. Shane Welke. I apologize for mispronouncing. I mean, my last name's Noveski. Everybody mispronounces that as well. So, but Shane, pass. Chris Springer. David Anastas. Sorry? David left. David left, okay. Diane Knapp. Is there Diane Knapp here? No, okay. Nina, there's got to be only one. Oh, I'm sorry.
Chris Springer.
Okay, great, thank you, sorry.
My
Chris
name is Chris Springer. I live at 104 Brook Hollow Drive. I live in the neighborhood that kind of backs up to the southern portion of the development. And I also just want to talk about, I know there's a lot of people from my development here tonight. We've all kind of walked through those woods. I really don't see how this is even like a feasible thing with the amount of streams and water back there and all that stuff. But with that said, I also want to let everybody know I'm an educator and I work in Westchester County. And I happen to be in a district that's experienced over expansion. And I work in a building that has a lot of experience of what it's like when we have a massive influx of students that we can't handle. My building alone, our computer lab has been taken away from the students and broken up into multiple classrooms. Our library has been significantly decreased. Closets are with no windows are being used for related service providers. It's a really bad thing and it really negatively impacts the students in the schools. And I have 2 children in this district. I have a wife who works in the district. I happen to think it's a wonderful place and I really would hate to see anything happen to it. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Springer. I apologize for missing you. Nina? I wouldn't say your last name. There can only be one Nina here if there is one. 9, okay. Joel Aguilar? Yes, okay. Michael Duffy the second? And Deck would be Patricia Duffy, that would be.
Good evening. My name is Michael Duffy. I'm one of the residents of Otter Brook. And I want to know if my road will be used as emergency rescue. If so, what parameters are you guys going to put so the 100+ residents won't be affected by this?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? We couldn't understand what you said.
Sorry. What parameters are going to be put in place so my road won't be used as a public access to the new development? If you try to add sidewalks, how would you? The roads in my development would be too small, or it would take away property from homeowners. What about speed bumps? How many would you add? What would be the distance apart from each other? You would have to add a light at the intersection to ensure safety for all drivers. It would be too dangerous of a blind spot that will increase traffic and possible accidents. My development has been quiet for 25 years. I don't want it to be a cut through for young adults to get to the high school there. Thank you.
Excuse me, do you have that in writing right there? Because we had difficulty understanding, but if you could maybe hand Diane that sheet, your note sheet, that would be very helpful. Thank you so much. Patricia Duffy with,
I'm Patricia Duffy.
yes, I was
Hi.
going to call it on Decker, but that's okay. We
Okay.
can.
Thank you. Evening board and the community. My name is Patricia Duffy and I'm a resident at 36 Brook Hollow Drive. I'm here to share my thoughts and concerns for the new housing development that will be
Could you,
squeezed
Mayor,
between.
could you speak into the microphone?
Okay, sorry. Sure. I'm here to share my concerns and thoughts of the new housing development that will be squeezed between Cornwall Central High School, neighboring homes, and my development, Otter Brook, that will butt right up next to this new development. I grew up in a suburban area. Our neighborhood was ideal. You could walk your dog, go for a walk, run, ride your bike, play in your neighbor's yard down the road from you. Cars not cutting through or racing somewhere. Parents knowing that their children would be safe. Well, that is exactly what my neighborhood is like, Otter Brook. A safe place for my children and the children in the neighborhood. They can safely play outside using our streets, and we know that there will be no speeding cars or packaging trucks or unfamiliar cars going through. This gives us all peace of mind, and I like that for all of our neighborhoods. Our development does not have the sidewalks or the limited volume of traffic, so it makes it safe for our children and our pets and ourselves to be on these streets. With that said, what impact will these 328 multifamily units, as well as the high school traffic, have upon Otter Brook, if a cut-through is decided to go through our neighborhood? How will the additional noise, traffic, and possible disruption of the water table causing flooding that will affect the people who live in Otter Brook and their surrounding homes, as well as our high school fields? What studies have been done to know the impact of these decisions? How will the developer ensure the continual support and positive quality that we got when we bought our houses so long ago? As well as, how will the increased student population of at least 200 plus students impact Cornwall Central School District? How will it affect the class size? It has taken this district so many years to finally achieve manageable class size for most of its grade levels in most of the schools. How will it meet its technology needs? What will be the increase of busing costs? Finding additional and qualified drivers has been a problem. What will the cost of this added cost to our district be? How will our taxes be affected by all these additional new housing units and our house values? What are some alternative streets, pathways that can we be seen to use? This Cornwall Central Dragonway cannot effectively support the volume of traffic today. Just leaving after this meeting tonight, we will all be in a very long waiting line. So I'm concerned with the locality of my development to this new development. What green spaces and energy efficient technology, such as solar panels, charging stations for electrical cars, are planned for this new development? How many outside accommodations, such as playgrounds, pools, dog walking areas, grilling areas, are included in this new housing development? How many in total are you going to be including in this new development? It seems that this developer has none or very little concern for the residents who will be living in these apartments based on his submitted plans. What incentive is the developer including in these plans that will compensate for the increased cost that these dwellings will directly affect Cornwall Central School District, all of these neighborhoods, as well as the towns that it will disrupt? Has the developer budgeted funds to provide emergency personnel to ensure the safety of all? Everything always looks great on paper until you are the one actually affected by it. Thank you for listening and hearing my concerns as a resident of the community of Otter Brook, as well as a parent and teacher within this district.
Thank you. Leslie or Leslie Von Reddy, perhaps? Doesn't sound familiar. Frank Soto? Marvella Anaya? And I apologize, many people I think this was a sign-in sheet, and it says, print your name, please. But most people signed in, as I might sign in, it looks like a heartbeat, and nobody can read it, but. You are Marvella Anyana?
My apologies, that was bad handwriting. It is Manuela Anaya.
That's close.
You were close. The U looked like a V. So I am a resident of 16 Benedict Lane. I am directly across from that emergency access road coming out of this development. I am also speaking, my notes, I had a lot of notes like the teacher before me, but a lot has been said, so I'll keep it brief. But it is a compilation of comments from another gentleman who spoke earlier, Derek Spagnoli, and his family. He wrote a beautiful 3-page letter, and he makes some good points as an excavating specialist in the town for 29 years of his life. So I'm going to incorporate his and mine. He lives on Meadowbrook Lane. He's right over there.
Would you mind giving, not to interrupt you, but would you mind giving the written statement to Diane there?
I can, I wrote all over it though, but that's sure, because he gave it to me today. So what I wanted to say, being across the street from the access, I've lived here since 2003. My husband's lived in the house on Benedict Lane since 1999. That spot right there is a slope going down from Benedict Lane to Riley Road. It is steep, its visibility is very handicapped. And through the years, snowstorms, rain, sleet, any type of weather, water's going down that slope, cars crash on those, there's no shoulder there. It is a single lane highway, route on both sides on Route 94, and that poses a big problem. There's been many times policemen have been out there in our snowstorms blocking off that entire section. So now you cannot get to to Dragon Drive. You have to drive all the way back through, going towards like Newburgh and parts of New Windsor to come around through these complexes to try to get to your road. On mornings and school days, morning and end of school, I can't even drive out of Benedict Lane. We are 5 houses, and we can't even pull out. The amount of school buses, the amount of traffic going to Dragon Drive now. The addition of that 328 units, which is potentially 1,000 cars, looking at the 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms, is going to make our homes that are right on 94 almost impossible to exit. It currently is. That road barely supports us currently. From Derek's notes, he has lived, like I said, in this area for 29 years. He's gone in those backwoods and those properties by the railroad and the tracks. And according to him, with the recent storms we've had and the flooding after all the development for the high school, for the reserve, for some of the other projects, Forest Glen, all that changes to the area has prompted 2.5 to 3 foot of running water on the railroad bed directly behind his house on Route 94, because the acres of swampland on both sides of the trail on the Route 94 side and the stream that runs to the Biagini property and beyond could not handle the massive flooding. Currently, this is happening, and it was never an issue before some of these other developments that he's observed personally. So now this is happening. What's going to happen when the clearing of the water catchment, that area that's going to get taken down for these units? He also notes that he has seen septic systems failing and houses flooding in that area over by the New York State Thruway, more swampland near Agnes Road and Clara Avenue. And he's been called to these houses and residents because of the failing septic systems and houses flooding in that area. And it all goes out, the erosion and flooding goes out into the Moodna Creek, and that continues to wreak havoc for properties over there. The other point that I wanted to mention, in working with the town of New Windsor, my house sits half in New Windsor and half in Cornwall. And we have a development that's been in the works since 1999 for 155 units that would exit out on Mount Airy and potentially come right to the same intersection of Dragon Drive. Now that's been kind of chugging along for many, many years, but they got their water rights, and my understanding is that could proceed. So I don't know how towns work together, but 155 units on that side and 328 on this side is unsustainable. We have no shoulders, we have no passage on this route. So all of these, I hope, are considered when you guys make your decisions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Well said. Vincent Saldana.
She can make.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Kelly Kai. Is there a Kelly here? I'm sorry about the last name. You sign your last name funny. Oh, there she is.
It's spelled funny.
Okay. Okay.
Good evening, Kelly Cassie, CACI. I live on 25 Shadowwood Lane, which is property adjacent to the high school and to this proposed project. There's been a lot of concern raised regarding the wetlands, both federal and state, and the runoff and the toxins in the water that could potentially pollute those wetlands. That is my concern, in addition to the fact that my home, my husband's home, and all the surrounding homes in the area are on wells. And so I would like to know how is that going to be addressed in terms of, 900 parking spaces, the toxins from the runoff from all that asphalt, the salt that is going to be used to clear those roads. How will the impact upon all of our wells be insured or addressed? Because that is a significant area of concern. We do not have any other options for water. We do not have an option for town water. So if our wells are spoiled, we don't have water. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe it's Anthony who? Anthony almost who? No. Okay. Luis Pinheiro? Luis Pinheiro? No. Okay. There were other people who were listed who spoke earlier in the other public hearing who wished to speak. I have them on the other list, but if there's anyone else, since I don't have any other names on the list, if there's anyone else who would like to speak, please raise your hand and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You called my name with regard to the other project in error. My name is Howard Cave, and I live at Shadowwood Lane, as does Kelly. She is a neighbor of mine. Although it's not depicted on the chart behind you, I'm looking at my lot. My house, the rear line of my house is the emergency right-of-way. So it would be easy to dismiss my remarks as a not in my backyard objection, but that is not my concern. I doubt very much that there would be much, if any, use of that emergency right-of-way, unless, of course, the plan changes in some regard. I have two concerns. One is the Dragon Drive issue. I understand Dragon Drive to be a private road owned by the Cornwall Central School District and never dedicated to the town of Cornwall. As such, it's maintained by the school district, if I am correct. I understand also that the applicant has a deeded right-of-way over Dragon Drive. Generally speaking, in my experience involving private roads, including the one I live on, Shadowwood Lane, they almost always come with a deeded road maintenance agreement. In the context of most private homeowners, you can't get a mortgage for a house on a private road unless you can show the bank that you have some means of maintaining that road. So if there's a fire, the fire equipment can get down and save that house before the bank's security for its loan burns to the ground. I do not know what, if any, provisions have been made, assuming that this project were approved, for the applicant and thereafter the homeowners, when the applicant is long gone, to maintain Dragon Drive, because there's going to be a whole lot more traffic, as is proposed, along Dragon Drive. And Dragon Drive, although it's paved, is going to have to be maintained. So question one is, to what extent is the applicant proposing to help maintain Dragon Drive? And that even begs the question, which is a huge one, about the additional traffic on Dragon Drive, which is used exclusively right now for ingress and egress to this building. I live close enough to this building that if I had known the size of the crowd here, I would have walked rather than have to wait online to get out of here this evening. But my major concern, and it has been since I first heard of this project, and I've attended, I think, all of your meetings, your non-public meetings, it has been traffic on Route 94. I've only heard the word mentioned once, or the words mentioned once, by the gentleman from the Mid-Hudson Times, and those two words are 5 corners. I built my house in 1985. I've maintained a law office on the other side of the 5 corners in Vales Gate, just 2.5 miles from where I live. But I have to go through the 5 corners at least twice a day, and most days 3 or 4 times a day. And there are times of the day, as anybody who has to commute through the 5 corners will tell you, that the traffic backs up from the traffic light at the 5 corners up to Shadowwood Lane, which is my exit, which is a 1.5 miles from the traffic light at the 5 corners. And I've been told that at certain times of day, when blessedly I am not on the road, it backs up almost as far as Jackson Avenue. And this project would add anywhere between a minimum of 300 vehicles to a maximum of 500 vehicles to the congestion that goes through that 5-corner intersection. Now, I imagine that there are a few people who might be living in these apartments who would make a left turn to travel west toward the train station, but I doubt that more than 10% of the traffic would go that way. Most of it's going east to the 5 corners. I've long felt that the state DOT should condemn everything in the five corners and put in a traffic circle. As it is, that five-cornered intersection is impossible, and this project would make it even worse. Now, I was told, or I was informed and believed, that there was a traffic study included in the environmental assessment. Is that correct? There will be. All right, it hasn't been done yet. I have to assume that any competent traffic study, just looking at the traffic that's there now, would have to conclude that the addition of another 500, 600, 700 vehicles every morning and every evening through that intersection makes, in and of itself, makes this project impossible. And if, in fact, as I've heard from the town attorney from the town of New Windsor, that the town of New Windsor Sewer District is not going to permit any additional effluent into its system, and if, as I've heard, that the school board is not about to dedicate the Dragon Drive Road as a public road, I would submit to this board that although you have to go through this process, I'm sure you can't short circuit it, this application is on life support. And I would certainly hope that by the time it's over, this board pulls the plug. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, we have other, sure, please.
Hello. My name is Greg Pagliata. I'm a resident
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Greg Pagliata is my name. 21 Weinberg Avenue, Cornwall on Hudson, New York. The biggest environmental impact I personally see right now today is the waste of paper that this plan is drawn on. It is, for this to even I don't know what scope meetings entail, but for this to even reach the level that this entire community has to come out and you have to deal with this on a plan that looks to anybody with common sense to be not practical at all is shameful, honestly, on every side. I don't know what scope process meetings are. I've been to some ARB reviews due to my profession, but we're wasting our time here. The fact that Dragon Drive is being considered to be the main entry point for this development is a joke. What happens when I don't know if the developer has done the study of traffic and done the study of impact on this area and Five Corners and New Windsor and Vales Gate. It's barely sustainable now. What happens, God forbid, when an emergency vehicle has to get down Dragon Drive? For this? And you know what I'm referring to, God forbid. It should be on all of our conscience. This is a joke. This piece of paper doesn't deserve to exist. And that's not even to talk about the impact on the school district, which is primarily why I'm here. I have 3 children in the school district. You know, there are many, many people that came up from the city to live in our beautiful community, and they love it, and they are welcome, and they have beautiful children. And there's a whole pandemic wave of little babies that were born while we were all cooped up in our houses. And that wave is ready to come through Cornwall. And now you're going to add 328 apartments in which a majority of them are 2 and 3 bedroom? How? The elementary schools are maxed out as it is. Or I would think pretty close. How is this doable? This area in particular has absorbed the high school, which, by the way, I don't want the high school to be here anyway. It's absorbed Forest Glen. It's absorbed the reserve. It's absorbed. I just read in the article in the paper a couple of weeks ago that maybe they're considering extending the Salisbury Mills line to Stewart Airport. You have the project that was here before, which seemed like a pretty darn good idea if you could figure out the environmental impact. How much more do you want to add to this area? It's not practical. This meeting has wasted our time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Are there any other comments? I'll remind everybody that this is a review for the seeker environmental impact, just so that everybody remembers that, okay? Please.
Hi, good evening. Tom Aspinwall. I live at 2210 Revere's Run in the reserve. I just want to mention, I know just to kind of double down on that point about being at max capacity. This district is at max capacity. I have 3 children in the district, 2 of which are in first grade at Lee Road. Last year, their classes had about 18 or 19 students, which is fantastic. A reason that a lot of families want to move to Cornwall to experience that. This year, they're in separate classes, both of which have 25 students in them, which to me is crazy and not why we moved to Cornwall 8 years ago. I've been in the classes during the day. The teachers do a fantastic job. The classrooms, the size, they are maxed out. My daughter's class, they don't even have coat racks. So their coats and their backpacks are on the back of their chairs. So you can imagine that 25 individual desks for first graders in this small room to begin with backpacks on the backs of their chairs. They stand up, their backpacks fall over, they pull the chairs down with them. It's ridiculous. There's no explanation as to why the class sizes are now at 25, maybe 26 for some of the classes in Lee Road. I'm getting quotes from the principal about legal limits on class sizes and that they could go bigger if they want to. Frankly, that's terrifying, right? We should be thinking about how to make their classes better, how to make their educations better, not what we can do legally. That's not why we live here. We don't need any more. Enough is enough. We don't need any more in our school district because we cannot accommodate, right? We would love to have a large community if we had more. Earlier, it was stated that there was a potential for or consideration around a New Windsor elementary school. That would be great. More the merrier. Bring everybody in if we can handle it. If we can't, it goes back to the children, and it's at their detriment when we bring in more that we can't handle.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Charles Nelson, and I live at 2212 Revere's Run in New Windsor. I have a very small thing, which is I don't know if traffic studies look at foot traffic, but one of the things I keep thinking when I look at the map is that it would be faster if you live in that far end to walk to McDonald's through yards and past 84 than it would be to try to drive up and around. And I don't know how much that's accounted for and people going through backyards to try to get over to Five Corners, but it seems to me like you would be generating at least a lot of teenagers walking through all sorts of places where there aren't roads and through what's now the wetlands and whatnot.
Very good point. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Jennifer Farley, 60 and 56 Agnes Road. Our property was mentioned earlier as one of those areas where we have flooding as it is, septic system that is failing on both properties as it is. We are losing enormous amounts of trees due to the drought, flooding in recent areas that were mentioned earlier. Beetle infestations as well. My biggest concern is water. So not only our wells, which we all in that area in our neighborhood are on wells and septic systems that are currently not functioning, but also the amount of flooding. This winter where we did not have a lot of snow, but the one day that the temperature dropped significantly, like 30 degrees in one day, my entire front yard, side yard, and backyard was a complete ice skating rink. And that is just from normal rain. Like I said, we haven't gotten a lot of snow this year, but my house and my adjacent property are both within that 100-foot buffer zone. My entire property is surrounded by wetlands. So the only thing that I would like to add is the wildlife. We have a bear, at least one that I saw this year. We have many coyote. We have deer. We have foxes that live in that area. And where is this bear going to go? He's already in my yard. And we are, 2 minutes off Beeks, right near Five Corners, right near the high school. This wildlife has to go somewhere. So in addition to the water concerns, the flooding is, I'd like to see what's going to happen to all of these species of owls and, that live in our backyards. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ray.
Are there other members of the general public wishing to make a statement? Please.
Good evening, my name is Carl Siegel at 96 Brook Hollow. I have 4 points that I don't think have been addressed yet. The first is a project of this scope, I believe, is personally biased in favor of the developer. As we've seen this evening, we're going now into 10 p.m., which has already disenfranchised several members of the community from having an opportunity to comment the restrictions they have on them.
I'm sorry, sir. Could you repeat that? We really couldn't understand.
Sure. I feel it disenfranchises us as a community with a project of this scale that the developer is proposing to have a meeting that is now going to 10 o'clock at night. I don't know exactly what, or I'm ignorant of what the board is allowed to propose, but I feel an additional meeting should be levied to provide further opportunity for comments so that the totality of the scope of this project can be considered. My second point.
Excuse me, sir. I won't make a note. Normally I don't do this, but there is time for a written comment period, I believe, until the 10th, just so you know.
Absolutely. I'm sure many of us plan to provide written comment, but I feel some individuals may feel that they can better express a concern with an opportunity for further public comment as we proceed this late, and some members may have felt disenfranchised by having this late of a meeting for consideration. I don't know what is available to the board, and I'm ignorant to that, but make that proposition. My second point is that, as Senator Skoufis alluded to, a project of this scope has the potential to do substantial harm to the community. I would argue that the scope of that harm is so extensive that the findings of this board should be provided to the state for consideration of legislation that goes to address projects like this and provide limitations that don't levy the burden of consideration purely on one small town board. Thirdly, I feel that a number of things proposed in this, to include the access road, leave potential for further damage to be levied down the line with less onerous restrictions, because they'll then have that right-of-way established and any other number of problems created by what is needed to propose for this initial proposition. With that in mind, I would like consideration in this that what contractual assurances, to include restrictions on future owners, would be passed along on behalf of the current companies involved in this project to prohibit any further damage to be levied down the line. Lastly, I would argue that there should be some opportunity for comment on projects the developer has previously pursued within the region to assess the good faith basis of the developer and any concerns the board should have with the potential that they are not a good developer, as Senator Skoufis alluded to. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members of the general public who wish to make, please.
How you doing? Pat Cassidy, New Windsor. I was going to say nothing at this meeting until I heard that threatening letter that you had to listen to. 2 points. I agree everything with Senator Skoufis. And the second point, is this the same developer that built the Swan Hollow project off Mount Airy? Okay. Ask him how that original plan went with the sewer line that was supposed to go from Swan Hollow eastbound along Mount Airy. I'll tell you, it's not there because somehow the plan was changed. You'd have to do some homework, some research with the town of New Windsor, ask the developer themselves what happened, maybe a legitimate reason. 11th hour, it wasn't done. So what you see there, what you see there, what you see in the contract will not be done. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much, sir. Are there any other members of the general? Okay.
Hi, my name is Kate Krimsky. I live in Salisbury Mills. I'll keep this brief. I grew up in this area. I've lived in the Hudson Valley my whole life. I grew up in Monroe, where there were forests and there were coyotes and there were fox and there was a quality of life that we all lived here for. And I moved to Cornwall almost 20 years ago, and it's the same thing. There's forest and there's deer and there's a quality of life with coyotes and streams and rivers that we've all come to cherish. And I would just encourage this body and this community to put our quality of life over the profits of some developers. You represent this community. Thank you for what you do, but please put us first before their profit.
Thank you. And are there any other members of the general public wishing to make a comment? Going once, going twice, going three. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Yeah. And while the gentleman is approaching the microphone, I want to thank those who have stayed and thank the public for their input. It's very valuable to the planning board to have it, and we will consider every word that was spoken today. Sir?
Andrew Jenna, 92 Brook Hollow Drive, New Windsor, New York. I'll be very, very brief. I live on the southern end of this project, and I spend a great deal of time, especially when I was a little younger, going with my kids in the area that is wooded over there. It is something that you really have to see in order to understand it. I was really pleased to see that there were several people who current elected officials who have been through there, and I know that a former much elected official who is here tonight has also been back there. And it's an area that has a great potential, but if you don't see it, you can't understand the potential that it has. And as we sit here today, this beautiful area is at one and the same time being degraded by nature and flooding and railroad beds that are disappearing. And at the same time, it's being improved by basically going back to nature. So if any of you can just take a walk there, I think it'll give you a whole different perspective on what we're dealing with here. This area has tremendous potential for being a nature preserve that could serve recreational purposes if some of the hazards were dealt with. And it's far from something that should just be degraded by one man for his own profit. And with regard to Mr. B, just look at his reputation with regard to other places that he's built, and especially the safety of those places. I have nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay. With that, I'll have one final call for public input, if there's anyone here wishing to make a comment or a statement. Sorry? Oh, our cameraman. Okay.
Hello, Philippe Valente. I live on 8 Diamond Court, which is right up against Jackson Avenue and right up down the street from 94. I pretty much agree with everybody that has been speaking against this development. And one thing that I've thought about a long time ago is that space of the railroad, old railroad that goes behind my house and everyone else's, my neighbors. And this is just a random thought, and I don't know if this is a possibility, so I just want to put it out there in this forum to whoever's listening. Is there a possibility that all the property owners that go up against that rail trail could possibly band together and buy out that area and just extend our properties to just close it all off? Just a thought. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, oh, sir, one more, in my mind.
I apologize for not having these ready at my previous speaking opportunity, but something that came up as...
Could you repeat that?
Yeah, I just wanted to apologize for not having these ready at my last statement. Two additional...
Excuse me, could you restate your name, please?
Yes, certainly. I'm Carl Siegel at 96 Brook Hollow Drive.
Okay.
Two additional things that came to mind as Mr. Jenna spoke are with those rail trails, whenever those were put in, my guess is that the environmental restrictions in place were substantially less. So as that area is excavated and developed, I would argue it is almost impossible to determine the potential chemicals or other factors that could be harmful to the environment and the community could be determined, because you could sample one area only to find out that some other place along that railroad has some previous chemical dumping that could potentially create a substantial ecological impact on the local area. I would argue the scale of that is so extensive that it should be addressed, if not at a New York level, at a very substantially high level to determine that risk, looking at the PFAS and other problems we've had within the area. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And last but not least, are there any further comments? Very good. And I would like to thank everyone who's here tonight who took the time to make comments. Everything that was said, every comment was made, will be reviewed by this planning board and considered. We can assure you of that. So thank you all very much for coming and have a very good evening. And I'm going to ask the planning board for a motion.
Move we close the public hearing.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. We have a motion to close the public hearing. Second, all in favor? Aye, thank you, public. Planning board.
As stated earlier, written comments will be accepted for 10 days on this project as well. They must be received by March 16th and sent by email to dhines@cornwallny.gov. And that said, the board may want to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, a second, please. All in favor? Thank you all very much.